Simultaneous Transmigration, unstoppable from the anime Multiverse. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author, we're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 26 is definitely not an ordinary junior high school student. So strong. Can anyone really receive a serve like that? Is he really from junior high? Feud mean junior high? I've never heard of such a school before. Is it a newly established tennis school? Without a doubt, the Yulin Junior High duo, who had previously decimated the Shigaku duo, were rendered powerless by Seiya. Honestly, Seiya and Anzu's double skills weren't much better than Ryoma and Momashiro before them. Anzu might have some doubles pedigree, but Seiya was also new to the game, so their combination was full of flaws. But so what? Even with Seiya alone receiving the serve, Yulin Junior High's Izumi and Fuko were powerless. To be frank, the so-called doubles was essentially Seiya playing against just two of them. As for Anzu's role, it was practically the opening serve that was bound to be returned. Whether Anzu or anyone else was substituted in, the outcome wouldn't have changed. You're truly formidable. We're no match for you, but you only managed to win because we were so weak. We will never admit that your tennis is doubles. Seiya paid no attention to Izumi and Fuko's humiliating remarks. After all, he couldn't play doubles. After becoming the defending champion, Seiya looked around and asked, anyone else want to challenge? Clearly, Seiya's words went unanswered. What a joke. The strongest pair here were easily defeated by Seiya. Would anyone else be asking for trouble? According to the rules here, if there are no new challengers, then the previously defeated players should be able to play again, right? In response to Seiya's question, Izumi and Fuko nodded, confirming that this was indeed the case. Meanwhile, Ryoma and Momashiro had already taken off their coats and were eagerly awaiting their turn to play, their rackets in hand. Clearly, Seiya's recent display of strength had ignited their fighting spirit. If before, they had merely responded to the challenge, now they were truly determined to fight Seiya. After all, they were both middle school boys, and now they were facing a formidable opponent who was their perfect match. If they didn't play tonight, wouldn't they be unable to sleep? Since no one's playing, can we change the rules? Change the doubles to singles. Playing doubles with Momashiro-senpai will only hinder my ability to perform. Ryoma had barely finished speaking when Momashiro, standing beside him, became upset. He put his hand around his neck and said, how dare you criticize me, kid? You're the one getting in the way. It was clear that both Ryoma and Momashiro preferred playing singles with Seiya over doubles. They also realized that Seiya was also a singles player, as Anko was practically a ruthless serving machine. Izumi, Fuko, and everyone else here, please make an exception and let them play singles. I don't want to be a mascot anymore. Besides, opportunities like this are rare, and you'll probably want to see a showdown between top players, right? The rules of the street tennis court were set by everyone present, and Xiaozing, a frequent visitor, now made a plea. Your boyfriend is so skilled, I doubt anyone would dare challenge him tonight while he's still on the court. In that case, let's play singles as they please. With permission granted, Ryoma and Momashiro were delighted and engaged in another intense game of rock-paper-scissors to decide who would play first. Momashiro ultimately emerged victorious, winning 2 out of 3 games, and excitedly flexed his arms as he entered the court. Let's follow the rules of a regular tennis match. Whoever wins 6 games first wins. I'll be the referee. Is that all right? After both parties nodded in agreement, Xiaozing tossed the tennis ball back to Momashiro, the challenger. Momashiro breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing the rules of the regular season. Honestly, if it still had to be decided in one game, he didn't think he had much of a chance of winning. He still hadn't gotten used to Seiya's movements or his speed. Momashiro, tennis ball in hand, tossed it high and leaned forward to serve. The moment the ball was hit, Momashiro's body instantly lunged forward. That was Momashiro's bullet serve. Is he trying to see his opponent's movements more clearly by serving and volleying? Seeing Momashiro's actions, Ryoma, who was watching, immediately understood his intention and had to admit that Momashiro's judgment was quite accurate. Why is serving and volleying more effective at observing the opponent's movements? Just as Ryoma was mumbling to himself, a female voice suddenly appeared beside him, almost startling him. Turning to look, he saw it was Sori Shiba, the female reporter from Tennis Monthly who had come to cover the Shigaku official team tryouts, and another middle-aged man, Mamoru Inu. Serve and volley is the technique of simultaneously serving and quickly reaching the net. Mamoshiro's serve is incredibly fast, making it even more challenging to simultaneously hit the ball and reach the net. The advantage of serving and volleying is obvious. Using your height advantage to get to the net allows you to observe your opponent from a closer perspective, effectively restrict their baseline drives, and even put them under psychological pressure. It was Inu, who was standing nearby, who answered Shiba Sori's question. He had come to the street tennis court because, while eating, he had overheard a talented junior high school students competing nearby. As a reporter for a monthly tennis magazine, his job was to discover promising junior high school players. However, he was surprised to discover, upon arriving at the street tennis court, that among the talented junior high school players were Ryoma Ichizan and Takashi Mamashiro, whom he had only recently met. Inu was well aware of the strength of Shigaku's regular players. Not to mention the Kanto and national tournaments, Shigaku was a seeded player in both the regional and metropolitan tournaments. As for the infamous Seiya, who was playing against Mamashiro, he had never even heard of him. Mamashiro had just served the ball and was about to head to the net with confidence when a swift yellow trail suddenly passed beneath his feet. What? My bullet served was so easily, 15-0, when Xiao Xing announced the score. Not only Mamashiro on the court, but even Inu and Shiba Sori, who had only just arrived and had never seen Seiya's strength, were stunned. Bullet serve? Well, it's certainly a lot faster than the average ball, but if that's all you can do, don't even think about scoring points with me. A lot of people think my writing is watery and not exciting enough, but I can only say that if you want an invincible and exciting start, I can actually write one. But those Zhu Shinwen stories that start out invincible usually collapse before 200,000 words. I want to finish this book well. So the combat power of the world in the early stages will definitely not be that high. For those who don't like it, I can only say sorry, Tot. Chapter 27, Mamashiro Takashi beaten by Seiya. Mamashiro's bullet serve was directly returned, and the speed of that ball was incredibly fast. Inu and Shiba Sori had already witnessed Mamashiro's strength during the Shigaku team tryouts. For sophomores at prestigious tennis schools, Mamashiro was undoubtedly exceptional in both skill and talent. And yet, Mamashiro, having just unleashed his signature bullet serve, couldn't even reach the net before being directly returned. It wasn't just a simple return, he had instantly aimed at Mamashiro's feet. And that kick, right as he was about to hit the ground, wasn't just speed, his control was incredible. Hearing Ryoma's words, Inu suddenly noticed a deep tennis ball mark at Mamashiro's foot, exactly as Ryoma had said, right next to the foot where Mamashiro had lost his balance. Sorry, get the camera out quickly. The junior high student playing against Mamashiro is definitely no ordinary kid. With that kind of speed and control, even among all the junior high students, he's definitely exceptional. He's very likely a player competing in the Kanto tournament, or even the national tournament. With just one return, Inu instantly took notice of Seiya. He could tell the junior high students before him was definitely not some unknown figure, yet he seemed completely unfamiliar. As a reporter in the industry, it's reasonable for him to be completely unfamiliar with such a skilled player. Even Inu-senpai doesn't recognize him. Could he be someone like Ryoma, recently returned from abroad, or perhaps a first year? This game goes to Wenrin Seiya, 1-0. Seiya serves for the next game. Even as Ryoma and the others chatted, Mamashiro lost 4 points in a row, losing his serve. However, Mamashiro himself wasn't overly disheartened by the result. By the final ball, he felt he'd barely caught up to his opponent's serve. Is that Seiya? I'm sure I've never heard of him, and I wonder what kind of moves he'll use in his serve. Inu wasn't the only one curious. His opponent, Mamashiro, and Ryoma, who was standing outside the court, were also watching Seiya's movements with intense attention. While they had seen Seiya play against others before, it had always been Anzu who served. This was Seiya's first time serving. He gave the tennis ball a nervous clench, then glanced at his racket. Finally, he couldn't help but grin, saying, "This opportunity is rare. Let's give it a try this time." The tennis ball in his left hand flew high into the air, and Seiya, gripping the racket tightly, his eyes sharpened. As the ball fell at a steady pace, everyone present watched as Seiya's arm transformed into a stream of light. The next second, the net in the middle of the tennis court shook as the tennis ball, careening through the net at super speed, accompanied by a wave of sound, exploded directly at the back of Momoshirō's court. Wenran Kenjutsu Ryu, no, Wenran Tennis Ryu Type 1 Ranga, Momoshirō, gripping his racket with both hands and still crouching, looked back at the ball rolling behind him with a look of disbelief. The same expression crossed the faces of all the spectators. Even Ryoma, who had previously maintained a nonchalant demeanor, widened his eyes. That ball just now was at least over 195 kilometers per hour. Is that a serve from a junior high school student? Seiya's serve undoubtedly stunned everyone present. Previously, everyone present had assumed that Seiya's serve would be quite impressive given his prowess. But they had never imagined it would be more than just impressive. It was truly terrifying. 30-0, 40-0, this game goes to Wenran Seiya, 2-0. Now we switch courts. Momoshirō, facing a serve exceeding 195 kilometers per hour, was completely defenseless at this stage. Naturally, Seiya easily held serve. After the change of courts, Momoshirō served again in the third game. With the experience gained from the first game, he began to gradually catch up to Seiya's serve. From initial inability to react, to barely catching up by 2 steps, and finally just barely hitting the racket's edge out of bounds, Momoshirō took just 2 games. Out of bounds, this game goes to Wenran Seiya, 3-0, although the score was already 3-0 and Momoshirō had yet to win a point from Seiya, he wasn't completely discouraged. He was gradually gaining control of Seiya's serve, and he was confident that he wouldn't let Seiya score easily on his next serve. Serving in the fourth game, Seiya, relying on his Reisuga, secured 4 points, bringing the score to 4-0. In truth, Seiya had many other moves he wanted to try, but he was still an enemy, and he didn't want to reveal too much too soon. Seiya couldn't help but marvel at the astonishing growth of first and second year players like Momoshirō and Ryoma, who still had the aura of a protagonist. He'd been confident that his return speed had been consistently high from the start, but after just a few games, Momoshirō actually managed to return his own ball in the 5th. You're truly amazing. In just a few games, you've already adapted to my speed? But even that's far from enough for me. After all, I never said I was just a speed player. He returned Momoshirō's return, and just as he confidently prepared to hit the ball back, the force from his racket stunned him. As the racket flew out of his hand, Seiya won the 5th game again, bringing the score to 5-0. The final game was Seiya's serve, and judging by the Reisuga he had launched earlier, Momoshirō was completely powerless to return it, meaning that Momoshirō's 6-0 loss was practically guaranteed. Momoshirō was now drenched in sweat, while Seiya remained relaxed. Just as Seiya tossed the ball high and prepared to serve, a powerful voice suddenly stopped him, saying, "Seiya, Anzu-chan, how long are you two going to mess around here? Come back with me." Undoubtedly, the person who had suddenly appeared was none other than Tachibana Kippei, the club's president. He had come to visit his sister at the request of his family, but he was surprised to see this scene. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Regional Preliminaries begin. Tachibana Kippei originally wanted to lead Futamine to a sudden victory in the regional tournament, and Seiya was considered his hidden trump card. After all, Futamine Junior High School was just an unknown school in the past, and Seiya was probably not taken seriously by Seigaku. The opponent's carelessness was an advantage for them, and it was also a form of strategy. But Tachibana Kippei had never expected that Seiya would come to such a place with his sister to show off, and when they could fight anyone, they would choose to fight their regional rival Seigaku. "Brother, I'm sorry, we just wanted to gather as much information as possible about the opponent before the game started." Seeing the angry Tachibana Kippei, Zion was obviously a little scared and hurried forward to apologize. And since Tachibana Kippei was here, the next game would naturally be cancelled. So Seiya could only look at Momoshirō and Ryoma with an apologetic expression and say, "This is the situation. This is our captain's order. I can't do anything about it." The result of this match will be held until the regional tournament. Seiya, clutching his racket, walked off the court without a second thought. Meanwhile, Xiaozing, facing her brother's scolding, repeatedly cast a pleading glance towards Seiya. However, Seiya chose to ignore the girl's pleas for help, even adding insult to injury, saying, "Captain, this situation is all your fault, Xiaozing." Then, Seiya quickly recounted the entire situation to Kahara. Seeing her brother's face grow increasingly gloomy, Xiaozing looked at Seiya unhappily and said, "Seiya, you're actually adding insult to injury. Are you still my boyfriend?" "What the hell, boyfriend? Isn't that just an excuse for dragging me into this?" "Xiaozing, just accept the captain's scolding. I'm leaving now." Under Xiaozing's stern gaze, Seiya abandoned her without mercy. Just as Seiya left the street tennis court, a man and a woman, seemingly having been waiting for a while, stopped him. "Hello, I'm Inu from Tennis Monthly, and she's my assistant, Shibasori. Wenrin Seiya-kun, right? I wonder if you'd be available for an interview." Before Inu could finish, Seiya interrupted him, saying, "Thank you both for wanting to interview me, but I'm very tired and just want to go home and rest. Besides, I'm not some undiscovered tennis prodigy or anonymous expert you might imagine. My past is quite simple, with no notable achievements or accomplishments. I was just an ordinary second-year student on the Futamine Junior High School Tennis Club." With these words, Seiya turned his back on Inu and the other woman, waved, and left. Inu wasn't angry at Seiya's refusal, as he had already learned a lot of useful information from Seiya's brief conversation. "I'm talking about Seiya, a second-year student at Futamine Junior High. Perhaps Shigeku will really face a formidable opponent in this regional tournament." Seiya's match with Mamashiro didn't go to the end, but anyone with a discerning eye could see that in the final serve, with his Rasuge move, Seiya was unstoppable. Mamashiro was a regular at Shigeku, and among the regular players, the only ones capable of crushing Mamashiro 6-0 were probably Tezuka Kunimitsu and Fuji Shusuke. Seiya, on the other hand, was just a second-year student, just like Mamashiro, and not even the captain of the Futamine Junior High Tennis Club. So, was the captain of Futamine Junior High, the man we just saw, stronger than Seiya? And what about the other members of the Futamine Junior High Tennis Club? Thinking of this, Anu couldn't wait to go back and research Futamine Junior High. Why was Seiya so powerful, and the school so unknown? The Prince of Tennis is set in the modern era, when computers and the internet weren't yet ubiquitous. Much information and data was still stored in magazines and newspapers. It was only with the help of a friend that Anu was able to find relevant articles about Futamine Junior High School in a newspaper of the time. As for Wenrin Seiya, no matter how hard Anu searched, he could find no relevant information. To be frank, as Seiya had previously stated, neither Seiya nor Futamine Junior High School itself seemed to be a well-known entity. On the day of the regional preliminaries, Anu and Shibasori woke up early and rushed to the tournament. Since Shigeku was the top seed in the regional tournament, they received a bye in the first round. However, Inu and his team's target this time wasn't Shigeku, but Futamine Junior High School. In the first round of the regional tournament, Futamine Junior High School faced Daigasho Junior High School. Since neither Daigasho nor Futamine were well-known schools, and since it was the first round, few spectators attended. Futamine's lineup consisted of Ishida and Sakurai in the second doubles position, and Uchimura and Mori Tetsuya in the first doubles position. Singles number 3 is Kamio, singles number 2 is Fukaji, singles number 1 is Kippa Itachibana, and Seiya is the substitute. When Inu arrived at the arena, he was shocked to find that there were several junior high school students in blue and white school uniforms not far away, who had also come to the arena to watch the game. And these people were actually Inu Sadaharu, Ryoma, and Mamashiro, who was in charge of collecting intelligence for Shigeku. Because of the crushing defeat last night, although it was very embarrassing, Mamashiro still felt it necessary to tell the seniors about Futamine and Seiya. So there was the scene of several people coming to watch the game. As the highly anticipated first seed, Shigeku's every move is naturally of concern to many schools. And when several people in Shigeku uniforms appeared here, they naturally attracted the attention of many people. "Hey, look, aren't they Shigeku? Yeah, why are they here to watch the game? Could it be that there are players in the Big Five or Fudo Peak that Shigeku needs to pay attention to? I think it should be the Big Five. They were also a school that made it to the quarterfinals last year. As for Fudo Peak, I've never even heard of it. Hearing the discussions of passers-by, Kamio and others who had a strong sense of team honor were about to get angry, but were stopped by Tachibana Kohei, who was standing by. Let them say what they want. The court relies on strength, not words. It's all because of Seiya and Xiaozing's chaos that we are now receiving unnecessary attention in advance. There is no need to give our all, as long as we win. It's time to make those who look down on Feudal Peak shut up. Chapter 29 Final, Feudamine vs. Sigaku. Initially, no one present took Feudamine Junior High School seriously, believing the Big 5 junior high schools to be a sure win. However, after 5 matches, Feudamine Junior High School emerged victorious in less than an hour. The final score was 5-0, a near-perfect crushing victory in both singles and doubles. Even when the Feudamine Junior High team left the court, the spectators, including their opponents from the Big 5 junior high schools, were completely stunned. Senior, besides Wenrin Shengaya, the other players from Feudamine Junior High School are indeed quite capable. Shibasori, though a tennis novice, could see that this match was a complete crushing defeat for a Feudamine Junior High School. Well, Feudamine Junior High School has truly transformed. It looks like this year's regional preliminaries will be even more intense than in previous years. After watching the match, Inu Sadaharu quietly closed his notebook and returned to the Sigaku gathering place. Their next match against Yulin Junior High School was about to begin. Inu, weren't you at Feudamine Junior High's competition field gathering intelligence? I understand that Little One and Momashiro are back for a match, but why are you back so soon too? Kikumaru asked curiously upon seeing the three returning. The match at Feudamine is over. Upon hearing that Feudamine's match was over, everyone at Sigaku couldn't help but inquire about the result. 5-0. Last year's quarter-finalists, the Big 5, were crushed by Feudamine. Whether in doubles or singles, their players are of high caliber. Not to mention the doubles players, the two sophomores in singles appear to be just as skilled and talented as Ryoma and Momashiro. The Feudamine captain, the singles leader, finished the match in just 15 minutes, without conceding a single point. In my opinion, the Feudamine Junior High captain skill level is on par with Tezuka and Fuji, because you're both completely unpredictable to me. Inu Sadaharu's words stunned everyone at Sigaku. They all knew Inu's character well, and knew that his serious nature wouldn't lead him to make random moves. The fact that Feudamine Junior High School received such high praise proved that they were indeed a formidable opponent for Sigaku this year. What about that sophomore who defeated Momashiro-senpai? Is he as strong as Fuji-senpai and the others, first years Horio and Tomoka? As if remembering something important, asked Inu-senpai again. Feudamine sophomore, Wenrin Seiya, didn't play this time, but was a substitute. Perhaps the opposing captain was deliberately hiding this ace. But judging by how easily he defeated Momashiro-senpai, he might be even stronger than the other two singles sophomores. It was undeniable that the intelligence Inu brought back instantly put a considerable amount of pressure on everyone at Sigaku. They had originally expected this year's opponent to be last year's formidable foe, Kakuji Junior High School, but instead, Feudamine had emerged. Inu's premonition proved correct, as in the subsequent matches, Feudamine Junior High School swept almost every opponent. Like a dark horse, they made it to the semifinals, and then, with an almost overwhelming performance, they beat Kakuji Junior High School, the runner-up of last year's regional tournament, 3-0. From the semifinals onwards, it was no longer necessary to play all 5 games, but only to win the first 3 games to advance and win. In the match against Kakuji Junior High School, Feudamine's doubles number 2, Ishida and Sakurai, won the match 6-2. And the number 1 doubles pair was the ace combination of Seiya and Kippa Tachibana, who won the match 6-0 without any suspense. In singles number 3, Fukuji faced Kakuji Junior High School's ace, Kyuki, but Kakuji ended up losing miserably 6-2. When Feudamine really made it to the finals, all the schools in the regional tournament were surprised, because they had never heard of the name of Feudamine Junior High School. Hey, do you think Sigaku can still win the regional championship this year? Isn't that a sure thing? Sigaku makes it to the Kanto tournament every year. By comparison, Feudamine Junior High is just a little luckier. Even if they were a dark horse, they can't be the underdog forever, but they beat Kokinaji Junior High. I think this final is going to be a little suspenseful. What's so suspenseful about it? Kokinaji Junior High has lost to Sigaku in previous years, too. Listening to the crowd's chatter, Xiaozing, soda in hand, chuckled to herself. It seems everyone still favors Shigaku. But they'll probably be surprised when they see Futamine's true strength, because Futamine's strength far exceeded expectations. Ryuzuki Sumair specifically called in Tezuka and Inu to discuss the finalists. Soon, a list of players for Shigaku was drawn up. Shigaku's number 1 doubles pair remains the unwavering golden duo of Kikumaru and Oishi. As for the number 2, Ryuzuki Sumair has come up with the ingenious idea of pairing the incompatible Momashiro and Keidao, hoping for a unique chemistry. Originally, Ryuzuki Sumair had intended to pair Fuji and Kawamura in the doubles position. However, considering Futamine's strong singles team, placing Fuji in the doubles position would be a waste of talent. So, after some discussion, Ryuzuki Sumair and Tezuka decided to have Fuji play the number 2 singles position. They believe this position offers a high probability of defeating Momashiro's winner in Seiya or Futamine's Bachao. Ryoma has always longed to challenge Seiya, but the problem is that both Ryuzuki Sumair and Tezuka believe that Ryoma, at his current level, may not be able to defeat Seiya. For the sake of their team's honor, they must ensure victory, so Ryoma ultimately moves to the number 3 singles position, while Tezuka, as always, reserves the number 1 singles position. Ryuzuki Sumair is the only one on the team who knows about Tezuka's elbow injury, so if possible, she wants to minimize Tezuka's burden. Honestly, there's almost nothing wrong with Shigaku's roster, but unfortunately, Futamine has a time traveler, Seiya, who directly predicted their prediction. According to the original plot, Seiya remembered Futamine's match against Shigaku, and they ultimately lost the match 1-3. Doubles number 2 relied on Ishida's Havoc Edge to beat Fuji and Kawamura, who voluntarily gave up. Doubles number 1 lost to Shigaku's golden combination, and singles number 3 Kamio was directly exhausted by Keidao's stamina, and the opponent even accidentally hid a spinning snake ball. Singles number 2 Fukaji faced Ryoma, and his temporary paralysis was very impressive, almost turning Ryoma into a one-eyed dragon, but in the end, he lost under the psychological pressure. Chapter 30, a series of crushing defeats for Kingsu. Since the original order would be a failure, the old routine couldn't be followed. Furthermore, even if Seiya defeated Ryoma on behalf of Shinji, Seiya didn't believe that Tachibana Kippei, the top singles player, could defeat Tezuka Kunimitsu. So, quickly, at Seiya's suggestion, a new roster was released for a Futamine. Their second doubles pair would still be Ishida and Sakurai, but now their opponents would be Momashiro and Kato. Tachibana Kippei and Shinji would team up to take on Shigaku's golden duo, Oishi and Kikumaru. Kanyo would remain the third singles player, while Seiya would play second. This way, even if Kamio failed, Seiya still had a good chance of winning against Echizen Ryoma at this stage, even if he exploded. As for the first singles player, Seiya and his team had completely given up. Honestly, even Seiya at his current level didn't have the confidence to win against Tezuka Kunimitsu. Who knows if he'll go all out and give it his all. If it's Tezuka, who sacrificed his arm, Seiya doesn't think he can win now. But with a few more veterans joining Heart Dreams, the situation could become even more uncertain. Are Momashiro and Kato the second in command for the doubles? Have Shigaku's players changed, too? Upon seeing the Shigaku team's lineup, Seiya was stunned. But he quickly realized that his intervention had slightly altered the plot. Of course, while there were some minor changes, they weren't a big deal. In terms of singles prowess, Momashiro and Kato were undoubtedly superior to Ishida and Sakurai. However, Seiya was well aware of the Shigaku duo's weaknesses. This was likely Momashiro and Kato's first doubles match, so their flaws were readily apparent. As long as he shared their strengths and weaknesses with Ishida and the others, with their tacit understanding, winning this match wouldn't be difficult. Is it my imagination? The two guys from Futamine Junior High changed their offensive rhythm right from the start. And the shots they're hitting are exactly the spots Kato and Momashiro hate the most. Fuji, whose eyes had been slightly narrowed, now open wide. Looking at Momashiro and Kato, who are struggling to catch the ball and even arguing with each other, his face filled with solemnity. Sure enough, Fuji, you noticed too, didn't you? And the two guys from Futamine changed their style of play after talking to their captain during the court change. Hearing Jin's words, the other members of Shigaku looked at him in surprise and asked, Jin, are you saying that the captain of Futamine Junior High is the same type of player as you? No, I think the person who really gave them the advice should be someone else. There are still experts in Futamine, the Shigaku members exclaimed. I just saw that second-year student, Wenren Shengaya, talking quite a bit with their club leader. Generally, only the on-court coaches can give players advice. Off-court players can't directly pass on information. Jin pushed his glasses up and glanced at Seiya, not far away, with a hint of interest. As if noticing Jin's gaze, Seiya returned the gesture with a toothy smile, causing Xiaozing, who was standing beside him, to turn her head away with a look of disdain. You're being so blatant. We'll be exposed soon. It's okay. We're not breaking the rules. Otherwise, why would those intelligence tennis players gather information on other players, then tone it down a bit too? We haven't won yet. What if we lose if we're so arrogant? Xiaozing wasn't overly surprised that Seiya had information about the Shigaku regulars. After all, back at the street tennis court, Seiya had already revealed Momashiro and Ryoma's signature moves and strokes to her. Xiaoan didn't know where Seiya got his information, but at least she knew he wasn't playing some kind of intelligence tennis game. Seiya's family was wealthy, and Xiaoan wondered if he'd paid someone to gather information about Shigaku's past matches or videotapes. And when she thought about how Seiya, usually heartless, might secretly be studying Shigaku's match tapes late at night for a Futamine, Xiaoan couldn't help but feel moved. Of course, if Seiya knew what Xiaoan was thinking, he'd definitely cry out in injustice. While he occasionally watched tapes late at night, the content had absolutely nothing to do with tennis. It was about something far greater and more meaningful, like exploring the origins and birth of life. Despite knowing their opponent's weaknesses and their killer move, the Hado Ball, Ishida and Sakurai ultimately managed a narrow victory over Momashiro and Kato at Shigaku, 7-5. Their victory was a look of relief, and they could sense that the match was becoming increasingly difficult. The Shigaku duo's chemistry improved dramatically over the course of the match, and the growth was astonishing. Had they not followed Seiya's advice and quickly won the match without a significant early advantage, they might have already lost. After Shigaku's second doubles pair lost, everyone was stunned to see that Futamine's team's first doubles pair was played by Futamine's captain and second-year player Shinji, who had defeated Kakajikuki. Inu pushed his glasses up, a serious expression on his face as he said, "It seems we've been tricked." The other team clearly has a brilliant strategist. Coach Ryuzuki's face was also grim. The strength of Tachibana Kippui and Ibu Shinji was evident. The other team was clearly using military tactics, aiming to win the first 3 games. "Don't worry, no matter who we play, we won't lose," Kikumaru confidently picked up his racket. "Eiji, don't be complacent. The opponent is a formidable foe to be reckoned with." Oishi remained as steady as an old woman. In terms of doubles prowess, Oishi and Kikumaru's strength is naturally far superior to Momashiro and Kato. After all, they were the golden combination that qualified for the national tournament last year. However, the so-called golden combination is only at the national level. Among the doubles teams competing in the national tournament, the current golden combination is definitely at the bottom of the heap. And now, their opponent is one of the former Kyushu twins, a genius whose sense of touch rivals Echi's and Ryoma. In terms of singles prowess, Tachibana Kippui and Shinji are already superior to Oishi and Kikumaru, especially with their intelligence. Therefore, the outcome of this doubles match was unpredictable. The golden combination of Shigaku naturally suffered a crushing defeat. Not only did they lose, but they lost even more miserably than Momashiro and Kato, with a final score of 6-3, and in less than half the time of the previous match. Tachibana Kippui didn't even use his special moves, and Shinji's temporary paralysis effectively blocked Kikumaru's special shots. Chapter 31 Seiya will not lose, no matter who his opponent is. Outside the court, Shibasori, snapping photos with her SLR camera, couldn't help but voice a worried tone. "Senior, Shigaku has lost 2 doubles matches in a row. If they lose even singles number 3, then this match will be won by Futamine." Since she was more familiar with Shigaku's players, Shibasori secretly preferred a victory. But the current situation made it clear to anyone with a discerning eye that Shigaku was backed into a corner. "I didn't expect them to lose even Shigaku's golden duo. Futamine is so strong. And their style of play seems to understand Shigaku's players perfectly." Anu hadn't anticipated the situation turning out this way. He had assumed that Futamine, a dark horse, would at best be a match for Shigaku. But now, the situation had become completely one-sided. If Futamine's singles number 3 is that winner in Seiya, then next is the singles number 3 match. Please, Kamio Akira from Futamine Junior High School and Echizan Ryoma from Shigaku, As the referee called out the names of the players on both teams began cheering them on. Akira, our opponent is just a first year. If we beat him, Futamine will be the regional champions. Echizen, don't lose. You know what? We can't afford to lose another match. Go Ryoma. X5, Ryoma calmly took up his racket and took to the court, cheering Momashiro and fellow first-year Haruo on. I never thought Seigaku would entrust their final, fateful match to first-year brat. Kamio, already somewhat arrogant, couldn't help but show a hint of disdain when he saw his opponent was a short first year. But for all Kamio's arrogance, someone else was even more arrogant. I'd rather fight that guy over there called Winrin than someone like you. As for you, you're nowhere near that. Seiya had naturally already informed Kamio of the information regarding Echizen Ryoma. Initially, Kamio had leveraged his tempo to take the lead and win the first round. However, it's important to note that compared to Momashiro and others, players like Ryoma and Tezuka are all around capable, with no obvious weaknesses. Furthermore, Ryoma, the protagonist, was a power-up himself, so after an hour of intense fighting, Kamio was still no match for the Aura and was defeated. Seigaku's victory in singles 3 brought the score to 2-1. Seigaku's previously low morale was revived by Ryoma's victory. Great. That kid Echizen won. Futamine's ace is already playing in doubles. There's no way Fuji-senpai and Buchao will lose in the next singles match. Seeing Ryoma's victory, Momashiro cheered along with several other first-year students. He actually blamed himself for the loss in doubles. But thankfully, the situation was turning around. The Seigaku people knew best how strong Fuji-senpai and Buchao were. If it had been those two, they wouldn't have believed they'd lose. Even Ryuzuki, the coach, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Aren't you happy a little too early, Momashiro from Seigaku? You are the younger sister of Tachibana Kohei from Futamine, the girl who was with Bunrin Seiya last time. My name is Tachibana and I'm a sophomore at Futamine, not Tachibana's younger sister, nor the girl who was with Seiya. Forget it, these are not important. The important thing is that you, Seigaku, are going to lose this game. Hearing Zioan's speech, everyone present at Seigaku immediately showed unfriendly expressions towards her. Kato, known for his fiery temper and eerie presence, glared at Anzu. What did you say? Say it again. However, facing Kato's threat, Anzu remained undeterred. Instead, she crossed her arms and declared, while Seigaku has indeed pulled back a point, it's still match point for a Futamine. Seniors Fuji Shusuke and Tezuka Kunimitsu are both formidable players, but the next player on our side is Seiya. He'll definitely not lose, no matter who he's up against. Anzu's confidence in Seiya wasn't blind. While it's true that girls in love often see others through a lens, Anzu had witnessed Seiya's true strength firsthand. That evening, after returning home from the street tennis court, the siblings visited the Wen family again. Her brother had even played a match against Seiya at the Wen family's private tennis court. In that match, her brother, Tachibana Kippei, seemed determined, unleashing the full power of one of the former Kyushu twins. Yet, the match ultimately ended with a disproportionate 6-1 victory. It was during last night's match that Tachibana Kippei and Zioan fully realized the terrifying power of Seiya. At full strength, Tachibana Kippei's skill is undoubtedly national competition caliber. Even among all the junior high students at this stage, Tachibana Kippei's skill would rank him in the top 10 yet. In his match against Seiya, this Tachibana Kippei was completely defeated 6-1. To be frank, even with Futamine already having won 2 of their matches in this final, and Seiya still having yet to play, Zioan already didn't think they would lose. Now it's Futamine Junior High School versus Seigaku Singles 2, with Futamine's winner in Seiya serving. As the referee announced the start of the match, everyone's attention focused on the action. And when they saw Seiya toss the ball high up, Ryoma and Momashiro on Seigaku's side immediately said with sharp eyes, "It's coming, that serve." Wenrin Ryu type 1 Ranga, bang, accompanied by a strong airflow, the tennis ball flew out at super high speed, suddenly making a sonic boom. And almost when everyone heard the sound of the tennis ball being hit, a tennis ball had already rolled directly behind Fuji. 15-0. Not to mention the audience, even the referee was obviously scared by Seiya's serve. What the hell? Did you see that serve just now? Although I thought he was very strong, I didn't expect him to be this strong. No, even in the daytime, I can't see the ball at all. It seems that it was not because the lights were not bright enough last night. Chapter 32, The genius of Fudo Peak, Wenrin Shengaya. When did that CI guy learn such a powerful serve without our knowledge? That's right, it's far more powerful than Shinji's sidespin serve, and he's hiding it from us, his teammates. CI's serve stunned everyone present. Fudamin Captain Tachibana Kippei, looking at Fuji, whose eyes were now fully open, crossed his chest and thought to himself, Sigaku's prodigy, Fuji Shusuke, is truly a formidable opponent. But when facing Seiya, even geniuses have different levels. 30-0, 40-0. This match goes to Fudamin's famous player, Seiya, and it's 1-0, as Seiya held serve. Sigaku's previously buoyant morale plummeted. Fuji Shusuke, the man they had placed such high hopes on, lost 4 points in a matter of minutes, losing the first set. Even Fuji-senpai can't receive that guy's serve. That kind of serve is so fast you can't even see it. How could anyone possibly catch it? Just as Haruo and Katsuo and the other first years were discussing this in frustration, Ryoma interjected, I think Fuji-senpai has a chance of hitting the ball back. That's right, I think Fuji-senpai can do it too. His dynamic vision is pretty good. If I and little one can barely see the ball, Fuji-senpai should be able to do it too. It just takes some time to get used to it. Kikumaru and Ryoma's words brought a sigh of relief to the Sigaku crowd. If Fuji-senpai could hold his serve and gradually adjust to the opponent's serve speed, they might have a chance of winning. At the start of the second set, Fuji, now completely serious, no longer had the squinted eyes of before, but instead sized up Seiya with a serious expression. He knew his opponent was a formidable foe, something he'd known since the first set. This set was crucial for Sigaku, so he absolutely wouldn't lose. Fuji's sister once said that Fuji rarely played tennis for himself. But as long as he had a determination, Fuji Shusuke would become terrifyingly strong. Pa! With a crisp sound, Fuji's serve, at a perfect angle, flew directly to the opposite corner of Seiya's court. Such extreme control of the ball made everyone watching exclaim, beautiful. However, this was a shot that, under normal circumstances, could have been an ace. The next moment, everyone in the audience was stunned to find that Seiya, who had been standing at the net, had suddenly appeared at the baseline and hit a perfect return. When did that guy get back to the baseline? Everyone was still wondering what Seiya's move was, but Fuji, his opponent, had no time to care. Seiya's return had already soared into his court, and not only had it been returned, but it was also incredibly fast. Is it a topspin? In that case, let's use that move. We're a formidable opponent, we can't hold back any longer. If we can't hold serve, it'll be hard to win later. Fuji was no Momashiro. Momashiro needed several games to adapt to Seiya's equal return, but Fuji successfully received it on his first try. And not only did he receive it, Fuji also used a slice to return Seiya's topspin. As the ball flew over the net, it descended at breakneck speed, finally gliding flat on the ground. Sigaku Fuji scores, 15-0, here it comes, here it comes. Fuji-senpai's flying swallow returns. The Sigaku players were filled with excitement as they watched the ball slide across the ground without bouncing, while the Fudamin players were stunned, for they had never seen such a magnificent display of skill before. Great! They have that rain fang move, but Fuji-senpai also has flying swallow returns to the nest. This way, at least we can stay undefeated. Seeing Fuji score, Sigaku and the others were incredibly excited, and Coach Ryuzuki breathed a sigh of relief. However, when she looked at Tachibana, who stood with his arms folded, looking as calm as a rock, her expression suddenly grew more serious. It seems the situation is worse than we thought. Hearing Inu-senpai's sigh, the Sigaku people were somewhat puzzled. However, Ryoma and Tezuka had already noticed that something was amiss. Fuji-senpai clearly won the match with flying swallow returns to the nest, but look at the opposing team's captain and that famous player, Seiya. Do they even have the slightest look of worry on their faces? Their singles players are just mediocre players, meaning if they lose this set, it's practically a loss. They weren't even panicked in such a crucial set, but that only goes to show they haven't yet shown their true strength. Ryoma's words immediately silenced the excited Sigaku and the others. And before they could offer any rebuttal, Seiya proved Ryoma's words perfectly. After Fuji's second serve, Seiya deliberately hit a topspin shot on his return. Fuji didn't hesitate, executing one of his 3 return moves, flying swallow returns to the nest. Fuji knew that using the same move multiple times would likely be seen through by a master like Seiya. But facing Seiya's fast break, He had no choice but to use his ultimate move to score. Here it comes. Another swallow returns, everyone in the audience exclaimed as they watched the tennis ball plummet over the net. But soon, Ryoma and the others were stunned to see Seiya, who had been at the baseline, sprint to the net with incredible speed and swing his racket at the ball before it even hit the ground. Is that guy planning to hit the ball back before it even hits the ground? Pa! A crisp sound of the tennis ball hitting the ground echoed, and the next second, Seiya powerfully swiped the ball away. Out of bounds, Shigeku Fuji scores, 30-0, Seiya hit the swallow returns back, but because he didn't control the force well, the ball hit the wire mesh and went out of bounds. Even so, the Shigeku spectators were stunned. With just one shot, the opponent had managed to hit the swallow returns. It's a half-volley shot. I didn't expect that second year from Futamine to have mastered such a difficult technique. Chapter 33 The Unfathomable Seiya. Senior, what's a half-volley? Shibasori, while repeatedly snapping at Seiya's camera, posed another simple question to a new decider. A half-volley is a highly skilled technique for hitting the ball as it bounces off the ground. If the timing isn't precise, you'll miss the ball or it'll just bounce right into your face. A typical half-volley is a shot that returns the ball the instant it bounces, but Seiya just hit it back before it even bounced. This is much more powerful than a regular half-volley, requiring even greater speed and reflexes. It's even called a super half-volley. The same explanation was now shared with Inu and the first-year students at Shigeku. After a brief explanation, Jin pushed up his glasses and continued, he wants to get a half-volley before Fuji's flying swallow lands. Besides his sharp reflexes, that Seiya also has incredible sprint speed. But so far, I still can't figure out what kind of tennis footwork he's using. Tennis has many footwork styles, like Ryoma's single-legged short steps, which can be even a step and a half faster than an average player. Seiya's current sprinting footwork is clearly a special one, but Jin, a tennis expert, can't quite figure out what it is. Sending feet is that guy's special footwork, only it's been modified. Hearing Tezuka's sudden words, the Shigeku students were all puzzled, completely unsure of what sending feet meant. However, Inu, the brains behind Shigeku, and Ryoma, the man of style, both showed a look of sudden realization. So that's it, the Songzu? No wonder it felt so familiar. The Songzu refers to the special footwork used in kendo. I occasionally sparred with my grandfather back home, so I noticed it just now. And this Wenrin Seiya, whether it's his previous swing or his current swing, gives me a sense of sharpness. He must be a kendo expert, incorporating swordsmanship into tennis. That's probably his style. Futamine Wenrin Seiya scores, 30-15, just as Tezuka revealed Seiya's tennis essence. Fuji, on the court, watched the tennis ball roll behind him. His once serious expression gave way to a veil of surprise. His flying swallow returning to the nest was perfectly deflected by Seiya's half-volley. In just 3 balls, the opponent saw through his flying swallow returning to the nest and hit it back. The infamous Seiya of Futamine is truly formidable, but I won't give up so easily. Honestly, even Fuji felt immense pressure from the talent and strength displayed by Seiya. This was the second opponent since Tezuka who had put him under immense pressure. And just as he had said before, he had a reason not to lose. The serve was returned again, and Fuji used his swallow return again. However, Seiya, who had already mastered the rhythm, returned it with a half-volley before it landed. As if he had anticipated this moment, Fuji, upon seeing the impact point of Seiya's half-volley, had already reached the landing point and hit the ball directly in the opposite direction of Seiya. Beautiful. This shot hits him in the exact opposite direction. Even if Seiya's foot was fast, it's no use. That guy is a monster. In the blink of an eye, he's already at the other end of the court. Fuji's dangerous serve was once again firmly caught by Seiya, who retaliated with a shot to the other corner. Fuji, lacking Seiya's special footwork, barely managed to catch the ball. The ball, which he barely caught, was now lobbed towards Seiya's side of the court. The Futamine crowd beamed with excitement at the sight, as such a lob was a perfect opportunity for a smash. On Shigeku's side, having sensed Fuji's intentions, Shigeku and the others smiled knowingly. Looking at the lob in the air, then at Fuji, who had already appeared at the baseline, Seiya grinned. Familiar with the plot, he knew exactly what Fuji was up to, but faced with such an invitation, he had no reason to back down. After a few quick sprints, Seiya, gripping his racket tightly, leaped high into the air. The moment Seiya's smash landed, the Shigaku students erupted in excitement. They knew full well that Shigaku's prodigy, Fuji Shusuke, possessed a special counter to smashes, the brown bear trap move, among his 3 great returns. When in Liusi style, Broken Army, Seiya leaped high, switching mid-air from a one-handed grip to a two-handed one. Not only was his grip unique, but he also struck the tennis ball from the string to the frame. While it might be tennis, Seiya's leaping forward was more like swinging a sword in mid-air. The tennis ball, struck directly by the frame, deformed at a visible speed, then shot out in an extremely unstable manner. Fuji, get out of the way. You can't take that shot, Fuji, the power of that shot is too great. Don't try to be so stubborn. The moment the tennis ball was hit, Tezuka and coach Ryuzuki, sitting on the court, saw that the shot was extraordinary and quickly urged Fuji to give up and dodge. However, Fuji ignored them and continued to assume his brown bear net stance. Facing Fuji's reckless move, Tachibana Kippei, who was coaching Futamine, while admiring Fuji's courage, couldn't help but sigh and shake his head. Fuji, are you going to take Seiya's move with those thin arms? Even if the brown bear net can mitigate the power of the smash, this one from Seiya is no ordinary smash. As he spoke, Tachibana Kippei glanced down at his right hand. Indeed, Seiya's Pajin move, Tachibana Kippei had already experienced it last night. Thinking of his racket that flew several meters last night and his numbing arm, Tachibana Kippei couldn't help but show a look of palpitations on his face. He used to think that his tennis was too violent, but after witnessing Seiya's smash, he realized that he was quite gentle. The high-speed falling tennis ball, like a bolt of lightning, shot directly from the air, accompanied by a cloud of dust, leaving a deep dent on the court. Fuji assumed the posture of a brown bear falling into the net, but the ball changed its trajectory at the last moment and fell just past the edge of Fuji's racket. Chapter 34, Seiya wins, Regional Championship. You saved my life, Fuji. If that ball had landed on the racket, your thin arm might have been crippled. No, maybe this was all controlled by Seiya. Unlike me, who only knows how to play aggressive tennis, that kid is truly unfathomable. This match goes to Futamine Fumido Seiya, 2-0, with the referee's whistle. Everyone present finally recovered from their shock. Aside from the Tachibana siblings, who had already witnessed this move, everyone present, from Shigaku to Futamine, was stunned. They had seen clearly that Seiya's smash wasn't just fast and powerful, the ball actually changed its trajectory mid-air just before it was hit by the racket. Hitting the tennis ball with the racket's frame imparts immense destructive force, causing the force to ricochet around inside the ball, affecting the surrounding airflow. Seiya's Pajin, is actually somewhat similar to Tachibana Kippei's ultimate move, Bakuku Ranbu. The only difference is that Seiya smashes the ball with a two-handed grip, resulting in even greater speed and power. Furthermore, Tachibana Kippei's Bakuku Ranbu creates multiple phantom balls, while Seiya stirs the airflow, affecting the ball's trajectory. Even if I told you to surrender, you probably wouldn't listen, right? After all, this victory is crucial for your Shigaku team. But equally, we at Futamine don't want to lose this match either, and I have no intention of wiping out Shigaku's tennis prodigy. How about we make a deal? I won't use Pajin on you anymore, and in return, you won't have to use Brown Bear Net. Seiya's words clearly stunned Fuji and the Shigaku team. Seiya knew that with Fuji's pride, such a concession was already the maximum he could make. Besides, he was quite curious about Fuji's other moves, so it would be a shame if it ended like this. What's that Seiya doing? Why is he agreeing to such a deal with the other party? His smash is clearly more powerful than Ishida's Hajime. Even if Fuji's skinny arms catch it, what good will it do? What's that saying? Seiya knows how important this match is to his Futamine. After all, the opponent is a genius, Fuji Shusuke. What if we lose by being so reckless? Compared to the bewildered Shigaku, the Futamine side was somewhat dissatisfied with Seiya's presumptuous behavior. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that such a deal was disadvantageous for them. Shut up, everyone. Seiya has his own plans. All we have to do now is trust him. And with such a powerful smash, do you think there won't be any side effects for Seiya? Don't forget Ishida's Hajime. Tachibana Kippei's prestige within Futamine was as high as ever. With a cold shout, everyone at Futamine fell silent. In the third game, Seiya easily won his serve with his Resuga. In the fourth game, Fuji served again, and to Seiya's surprise, Fuji unexpectedly broke through with his disappearing serve, a move he had only used in the Kanto tournament. With a disappearing serve, Fuji held his serve, and then, with 3 counters to his final white whale, he won another game, bringing the score back to 3-2. However, just as Fuji displayed his impressive skills, inspiring Shigeku to think they were about to overtake and even win, Seiya began to exert his strength. Disappearing serve? Seiya, who had practiced kendo for over a decade and possessed superhuman 5 senses, mastered the ball's trajectory with ease in just 1 game. However, the so-called white whale had a distinct weakness: the ball would bounce back. While seemingly impressive, it was actually completely useless. As long as Seiya could touch the ball with his racket at the moment it bounced, the rules considered it a valid return. Fuji was a formidable opponent, but at this stage, he was no match for Seiya. Despite employing his 3-stroke return and the vanishing serve, he ultimately lost the match 6-2, costing Shigeku the regional championship. It was a fantastic match. I hope we can play against each other again. After the match, Seiya extended his hand to Fuji, who, after a moment's pause, extended his right hand, saying, "Next time, I will definitely not lose to you again." Although Fuji lost, he felt he had grown significantly and realized the potential for further improvement in his 3-stroke return. Although Shigeku lost the regional tournament, both the champion and runner-up advanced to the Metropolitan Tournament, meaning he still has a chance to face Seiya again. Fuji, however, is confident that the next time he faces Seiya with his 3-stroke return, he won't lose. That's not necessarily true. After all, you're not the only one who keeps getting stronger. If we meet again, I won't lose either. Seiya is practically 100% confident he can defeat Fuji again. While his opponent is a member of the main cast and rapidly improving, he possesses cheats. If a true mastermind were to emerge from Heart Dreams, Seiya would be ready to take on 10 of them, not just Shigeku, but even the reigning king of Rikkei University. Ultimately, whether it's the swordplay world or the Prince of Tennis world, while considered action-packed, they're still at a low level of martial arts, never transcending the realm of the supernatural. If a mastermind were to emerge from Heart Dreams, Seiya's game would no longer be mere murder tennis, but pure supernatural tennis. A single tennis ball exploded the entire tennis court. Are you afraid? Wenren over there, you want to fight me too? The match between Futamine and Shigeku was over, but Seiya and Fuji's recent match had ignited Ryoma's fighting spirit. Shigeku, the match is over now. If you still want to fight, you can wait until the Metropolitan Tournament. Besides, Seiya just finished his match. Do you think it's fair to challenge him now? Before Ryoma could say anything, Tachibana Kippei stepped in front of Seiya. On the other side, Tezuka and the others, upon seeing this, hurried forward to apologize. Forced by the Shigeku senior's pressure, Ryoma finally gave up. After exchanging harsh words, the two schools, each filled with fighting spirit, agreed to meet again at the Metropolitan Tournament to decide the outcome. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Seiya's big star sister appears. At an upscale yakiniku restaurant in Tokyo, the Futamine Junior High School Tennis Club, having just won the regional championship, was celebrating with a meal. Kamio and Ishida, looking at the pricey meat dishes on the menu, couldn't help but gulp. They looked at Tachibana Kippei, who was sitting across from them, and asked, "Boss, can we really order something this expensive?" "Yeah, but are you sure you have enough money? We don't want to end up washing dishes." Before Tachibana Kippei could reply, a young woman with waist-length black hair and a strikingly slender figure, wearing a straw hat, a mask, and sunglasses, suddenly entered the sliding door. "Everyone, please eat as much as you want. I've reserved the place for you today. Since you're underage, I won't be able to buy you any alcohol, but I'll cover all other expenses." Despite the woman's sun hat, sunglasses, and mask, Kamio and Fukuji could tell from her voice and figure that she was a beauty. Just when everyone at Budong Peak was wondering who the other party was and why they wanted to treat them, Zio Zing at the side walked up to her with a happy look on her face, took her arm, and asked affectionately, "Sister Yaxiang, why are you here? If people recognize you, it will cause quite a commotion, right? And didn't you say you had a lot of work to do today?" It's okay, Xiaozing, I was already disguised when I came here. And you are the champions of this regional competition, right? I heard that my lovely brother also performed well in this competition. How can I be absent from such an important occasion? Why not just turn down all the trivial work and notices? Anyway, our family is not short of this little money. Xiaozing couldn't help but cover her face with her hands after hearing such inhumane and irresponsible remarks. Seeing the Feudamine members all looking at them with curiosity, Xiaozing turned to Yaxiang beside her and said, Yaxiang, is this okay? Wenren Yaxiang didn't answer Xiaozing's question. Instead, she gracefully removed her sun hat, sunglasses, and mask, and, to everyone's astonishment, introduced herself. Nice to meet you all, Feudamine Junior High School classmates. My name is Wenren Yaxiang, as you've probably guessed from my last name. My younger brother, Wenren Seiya, has a mischievous streak. I'd like to thank you all for your continued care. Born into a prominent family, Wenren Yaxiang possessed neither the whimsical attitude of a young lady nor the airs of a celebrity. Instead, she greeted everyone with grace and grace. After a brief pause, the Feudamine Junior High students finally realized what she was saying and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Wenren Yaxiang. That superstar, no way, Wenren Yaxiang is that Seiya guy's sister? I always thought they shared the same last name. It was just a coincidence. The Feudamine Tennis Club members had only known Seiya to be from a wealthy family, but they had never dreamed that Wenren Yaxiang, practically a national idol, was actually Seiya's biological sister. Seeing the Feudamine members practically in a frenzy, Seiya made a hasty escape. However, as he stood up, a scent of gardenias enveloped him, and the next moment, Seiya was embraced by a national idol with long, black hair. Patting Seiya's head like a child, he said, Our Seiya is amazing. Those tennis coaches we hired before were complete losers. Humph. They actually said our Seiya had no talent for tennis and that mom was right to kick them all out. Later, I'll find you some amazing foreign coaches. As a time traveler, Seiya's inner age must have surpassed his outward appearance of being a junior high school student. Being treated like a child by a 20-year-old girl was incredibly humiliating. And before, it was just at home, but now, in public, Seiya felt even more mortified. He was the ace of Feudamine Junior High School. He'd just been showing off today, and with his sister treating him like this, how could he possibly report to the tennis club tomorrow? However, Wenren Yaxiang didn't see anything wrong with her behavior. It was only natural for a sister to dote on her brother. It was normal for a sister to praise her brother for his good grades. She even thought Seiya's blush was simply because her adorable brother was shy. Originally, Tachibana Kahei had planned to have ramen for the celebration, but upon learning of this, Wenren Yaxiang called Xiaozing and had them take everyone to this high-end barbecue restaurant. As a celebrity with plenty of money, she lavishly booked the entire restaurant to celebrate with her brother and his classmates. Everyone was incredibly happy at the celebration. After all, the all-you-can-eat experience of high-end barbecue wasn't something you could always get. Besides eating, many of them also asked for autographs from Wenren Yaxiang. Seeing the noble, generous, elegant, and beautiful Wenren Yaxiang, Kanyo even felt like he'd fallen in love all over again. Of course, for everyone at Feudamine, the celebration banquet was a joyful one, but for Seiya, it was a torment. His sister, despite being the center of attention, still fed him, and under the pressure of his bloodline, he had no way to resist, only to suffer social demise again and again under the public's gaze. After the meal, Seiya was exhausted, both physically and mentally, while Wenren Yaxiang continued to watch Seiya's match tapes with gusto, even asking Xiaoxing for more. Captain, I'd like to ask for 3 days off, not a week. As for the reason, I think you know. After the celebration, at the entrance of the barbecue restaurant, Seiya immediately asked Tachibana Kahei for a week's leave. He figured a week should, perhaps, just maybe, allow those guys to forget about this matter. After all, he'd just been killed today, and if he were to return to tennis club training right away, he'd definitely not be able to handle the strange looks from the others. No, I sympathize with you, but as the club president, I can't possibly approve your leave. The Metropolitan Tournament is about to begin, and you're probably well aware that Feudamine's victory over Seigaku in the regionals was largely due to luck. Both Seiya and Kippai were well aware that Feudamine's current strength was still inferior to Seigaku. If it weren't for their unexpected move, and if Seigaku's second doubles pair were Momashiro and Keidao, they might have been the ones to lose. Chapter 36 Newcomers, Balman and Kulibo? Tachibana Kihei sternly rejected Seiya's request for leave, and finally patted Seiya's shoulder to comfort him. Seeing the other man's sincere and earnest gaze, Seiya was just beginning to feel a flicker of shame when he saw Tachibana Kihei stealthily pull out an autograph card and whisper, "Actually, I have a favor to ask of you. If possible, I'd like you to get an autograph from your sister. I'm actually a fan of Ms. Masaka, and I wanted to ask her for an autograph at the celebration party. But as you know, I'm the president of the Futamine Tennis Club, and I have to maintain some dignity, so, Seiya, get lost. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person, Tachibana Kihei. I really misjudged you." After parting with his Oxing siblings, Seiya returned home in his sister's luxury supercar. Upon returning home, Seiya realized this was just the beginning of his nightmare. Upon learning that Seiya had won the regional championship, Seiya and Masaka's mother, Fumito Sachiko, were equally overjoyed. Because their adopted father in this world died young, Fumito Sachiko and Masaka were both extremely doting on Seiya, their only male child. Did you think that Wenren Yaxiang's doting on Seiya was already the level of a brother-supporting demon? No, no, no. Compared to Seiya's mother, Wenren Sachiko, Wenren Yaxiang's doting on Seiya was at best gold level. The Wenren family is very rich. How rich are they? Even the richest man in Prince of Tennis, Adobe Kido, is barely even a match compared to Seiya's family. Wenren Sachiko is a well-known figure in the business world and a strong woman. She co-founded the Wenren Group with her husband and has continuously grown it through hard work over the years. Today, the Wenren Group is an absolute giant even in the entire island nation's business world. Seiya's current home may be considered a mansion by Seiya Oxing and the others, but in reality, it's not the Wenren family's main residence at all. It's simply a villa, or dormitory, that Wenren Sachiko bought specifically to make it easier for her son to go to school. Seiya's dorm, however, boasted everything from a basement gym to a private tennis court and an outdoor courtyard and garden. Seiya's victory in the regional tournament was a sight to behold, even more gratifying than if she had earned tens of billions of yen herself. She immediately threatened to contact various prominent media outlets to interview their son. Regarding this year's junior high school tennis tournament, Sachiko felt the equipment and venue were shabby and outdated, hindering her son's performance. With just one phone call, the Tennis Association received a sponsorship offer from the Wenren Group totaling hundreds of millions of yen. "Mom, the regional preliminaries are just the lowest level of competition. This championship doesn't hold much weight. Can you please stop making such a fuss about sponsoring the Junior High School Tennis Association? People will think I won by fixing the matches." After Seiya's earnest persuasion, Sachiko finally stopped her outrageous behavior. However, when Seiya returned to his room, the beautiful woman, only 40 years old and in her prime, suddenly realized that since her son objected to her sponsoring the Tennis Association and contacting the media, she couldn't leave Futamine Municipal Middle School unrewarded for raising her son to such an outstanding standard. So, she quickly picked up the phone and called her secretary, saying in a serious tone, "That's right. Don't just donate money directly. Help them build a few new buildings. Also, get the latest tennis equipment. And tell the principal not to tell anyone that it was donated by our Wenren Group." Seiya was naturally unaware of his mother's actions. While his mother Sachiko and sister Masako were still watching match footage, he had already returned to the Heart Dream Room. When the Prince of Tennis Seiya arrived at the Heart Dream Room, he discovered that besides the swordsman Seiya he had met before, there were other people present. No, to say they were all human wouldn't be entirely accurate, as among the three newly appeared figures, only one, a boy about 4 or 5 years old, could be considered human. When Prince of Tennis Seiya took a closer look at the other two spherical figures, it was difficult to classify them as human. Are all three of them newcomers? Or are they just like us? Prince of Tennis Seiya, who had arrived later, couldn't help but ask, watching Swordmaster Seiya chatting animatedly with the three figures before him. As Seiya approached, he discovered what the other two spherical creatures, besides the 4 or 5-year-old boy, were. One of these spherical creatures was completely pink, with long ears and a large mouth that took up almost half its body. It was the famous Groshaman of the digital world. As for the other, flying in midair, its body covered in brown fur and its stubby limbs and claws, it was called Kirito. Kirito, a well-known hard-working spirit in the Yu-Gi-Oh world, a 2-generation king-like Pokemon. And just as Prince of Tennis Seiya had predicted, They were all his own, but there was something wrong with how they had traveled through time, one becoming a Digimon and the other a Keiju card. Upon entering the heart and dream and seeing the other Seiyas, Digimon Seiya and Yu-Gi-Oh! Seiya burst into tears. Having unlocked the cheat code correctly, they should have been happy, but when they saw the other Seiyas looking so human, and they themselves had become mascots, they instantly felt unbalanced. Sword Seiya and the other little boy Seiya had been constantly comforting the Prince of Tennis Seiya just before he arrived. When Prince of Tennis Seiya also arrived and explained what world he had been to, the two of them cried even more heartbreakingly. Prince of Tennis Seiya is not only handsome, but also has a wealthy family, a mother, an older sister, and even a classmate who's the most beautiful girl in the school. Damn, they're all Seiyas, yet the difference is so huge. Actually, I don't think that you're traveling through time as Digimon and Keiju isn't necessarily a bad thing. Think about it, who says there are no beautiful girls in the digital world or the monster and spirit world? Hearing what Shoto Seiya said, the people present were obviously stunned for a moment, and then he coughed and continued, how many beauties are there in the world of Prince of Tennis? There aren't many beautiful girls in the world of Sword and Fairy that are worth mentioning. On the other hand, the digital world is different. Don't you see? For example, Angelimon, Lady Beast, Lilithmon, and even Sagamon, aren't they all full of charm? Angels and demons, demon kings and god-men, how can a mere ordinary human beauty be compared to a human-like girl? Chapter 37. Do you understand the happiness of female Digimon and Mika? Let's not even talk about the Digimon in the digital world that still retain their charm. Need I elaborate on the girl cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World? There are the Dragon Maid series, the Pearl Tier series, the Blade Princess series, and so on. Whether it's a mature woman or a Lolita, a Beast Girl or a Mecha Girl, there's truly everything. One is Gruntman, who sees everything as a ball, and the other is the Hand Trap, the must-have for card players, Kuli. They truly have a bright future. After Shoto Seiya's words, the other Seiyas present were stunned. They were all Seiyas, and their logic was similar, so with a simple hint from Seiya, everyone immediately understood his meaning. It's true that Gruntman and Kuli are weak in the digital world and the monster card world. But they're not just ordinary Gruntman and Kirito. They both have cheats. Not to mention Gruntman's ability to evolve into the ultimate form. Everyone is a Dragonman, but Kirito seems to be able to reach its final level 10 form as well. Putting aside their own evolutionary mechanisms and the shared ability cheat, if a powerful Seiya were to arrive someday, even without evolving, they could still become the strongest Gorillaman in the digital world and the strongest Kurimaru in the monster world. Thinking of this, Sword Master Seiya and Prince of Tennis Seiya, who had been comforting the two, looked at them with a touch of envy. I didn't expect you could do this. You're a genius, brother. What's your name? When I roam the monster and spirit world in the future, I'll definitely share my memories and experiences with you first, Shoto Seiya. Of course, I'm Wenren Seiya. The other Seiyas, nonsense, that person here isn't Wenren Seiya. We just want to know what world you're from, and why your mindset is so bizarre. After some questioning, they finally learned that the 4 or 5-year-old Shoto Seiya came from the world of my favorite child. This world was also an anime, and a relatively new one. Although Seiya and the others had seen it, it wasn't finished at the time, so they didn't know much of the plot. But one thing is for sure, in my world, neither the setting nor the combat power index is high. Judging from the worlds that have appeared so far, my world is probably the safest. My Seiya is only 4 or 5 years old, and since that world lacks any supernatural powers, his current strength is, as his appearance suggests, that of a child. However, perhaps in a rare Japanese entertainment series, my Seiya surpasses other Seiyas in terms of inspiration and thinking. Of course, this only works to a limited extent in everyday anime. In a more intensely immersive series, it's completely useless. After sharing their abilities, Sword Master Seiya sighed deeply. He had been hoping for the big boss to appear, perhaps allowing him to clear the death game even faster. But after all this time, and with 5 worlds already appearing, it seems his contribution to combat power is actually the greatest. The digital world and the Yu-Gi-Oh! World are, in a sense, already supernatural worlds. And its upper limit isn't particularly low. Sword Seiya believes that a mature Tyrannosaurus can practically walk the walk in modern society. Unfortunately, however, both Jeremy Seiya in the digital world and Kirito Seiya in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World are currently far too weak. Jeremy currently shares only one ability with him. a supposed ultimate move that looks more like a comical bubble attack. Kirito Seiya's ability, however, is significantly superior to Jerimon's damage nullification. Just like the special effects described on monster cards, this ability, damage nullification, reduces a single attack to 0 damage. The effect alone is truly divine. Unfortunately, in the Yu-Gi-Oh world, using this ability simply requires sending Kirito from your hand to the graveyard. Seiyas from other worlds are not Yu-Gi-Oh spirits and, therefore, cannot be sent to the graveyard. Therefore, to use this power, Seiyas from other worlds must sacrifice a certain amount of life force to compensate for the cost of being sent to the graveyard. The so-called vitality, presumably referring to something like lifespan, leaves aside the question of whether it can be restored. For now, the cost is enormous. However, the powerful effect justifies this significant price. Because this ability is rule-based, theoretically, once it's used, even if the opponent is a divine being, the damage dealt by Seiya will be reduced to 0. Simply put, it's the top-tier amulet with a hefty price tag. This ability may not be very useful for the current Seiyas, but for Seiyas in a future world of high combat power, it would undoubtedly be considered god-level. After sharing their abilities and memories, the 3 human Seiyas carefully exhorted Seiya Rolingan and Seiya Kirito, encouraging them to strive for strength and help everyone rise to prominence as quickly as possible. Then, they each returned to their own worlds. In the child's world I'm promoting, a 4 or 5-year-old Seiya had just risen from his bed. He clasped his hands together, feeling the surge of power within him, his young face lit up with excitement. Glancing at the light filtering through the crack in the door, Seiya sighed deeply. He then opened his own door and went to the kitchen to heat a cup of milk. Then, slipping on his slippers, he slowly walked into a room piled high with papers and manuscripts. A single desk lamp provided limited illumination in the dimly lit room. Even at 3 or 4 in the morning, a young woman, like a voluptuous figure, sat in a chair, diligently working away. As Seiya placed a heated milk on the woman's desk, she was startled by the noise. Turning to look beside her, she realized it was Seiya and managed a forced, ungainly smile. "It's you, Seiya. Did Mammy's voice wake you up? Is this the warm milk our Seiya gave me? How thoughtful. It breaks my heart to think about how Seiya might end up giving this little girl away in the future." The young woman, previously busy drawing on her digital tablet, forced a smile with dark circles under her eyes as she looked at Seiya. "Yuko, didn't you promise me before? You wouldn't keep working all night? Look at your dark circles and your condition now. You're really not afraid of overwork and sudden death, are you?" For those who haven't seen Shinsuke, you can treat it as an original. Since it's been a chart-topping show for the past 2 years, I thought a lot of people had seen it. Chapter 38, Seiya in the world of my favorite child. The woman before Seiya, claiming to be Seiya's mother, is named Yuko Fumito. However, Yuko is only in her early 20s and isn't Seiya's true mother, but merely his adopted guardian. While Yuko may appear slovenly and downtrodden now, she's a strikingly charming beauty when she dresses up. Before becoming a manga artist, Yuko was also an idol, albeit an underground and relatively unknown one. As someone who's become an idol, it's clear that Yuko's looks and figure are exceptional. Yuko was a student at an art academy, and her dream was to become an idol. She had an older sister who supported her, raising her on her idol income. Because of this, Yuko always aspired to be as dazzling as her sister. But one day, her beautiful life and dreams were shattered. Ako, the sister he admired and respected, was on her way to introduce her fiancé and his younger brother to him when they were suddenly attacked. A man in a baseball cap broke into a house and murdered a female idol named Hoshino Ai. After stabbing Hoshino Ai multiple times, the attacker, eyeing a boy who was present, remained determined to kill him. Hoshino Ai, barely breathing, screamed for help, and Ako and her friends happened to be passing by and witnessed the scene. A fellow idol at the time, Ako recognized the famed Hoshino Ai. Even though they didn't know her, as adults, they couldn't stand by and watch a child being murdered before their eyes. Ako's fiancé rushed forward without hesitation to prevent the tragedy. The knife-wielding attacker was a young, strong man. Ako's fiancé fought him off, knocking him down, but unfortunately, he was stabbed in the back. Seeing her boyfriend stabbed, Ako rushed forward to check on him, only to find the injured attacker struggling to get up again. Fueled by rage, he recognized Ako as an idol and the man she had just seen was her boyfriend. He laughed, seemingly inspired, and then stabbed Ako as well. The attacker, having completed the triple kill, went completely mad. Feeling unable to escape, he ended his life with a knife. At the scene, 2 men and 2 women lay in a pool of blood, along with 2 children, only a few years old. The blonde child, visibly stunned by the scene, seemed overwhelmed by the shock of seeing Hoshino Ai's death. The other, with dark hair, sobbed bitterly, realizing Ako was still alive, quickly removed his clothing and covered her wounds. Finally, using his small body, he carried the injured Ako to a couch, where he provided first aid and quickly called for help. When the detectives and hospital personnel arrived at the scene, they were stunned by the scene. Later, after investigation, the detectives revealed to Yuko that the knife attacker was a fan of Hoshino Ai, driven by his inability to accept the fact that Hoshino Ai was married. Seeing that Ako was also an idol and was living with her boyfriend further fueled his anger. He targeted the innocent Ako as well. Thanks to prompt medical treatment, Ako survived, though she remained in a coma. However, her fiancé, stabbed in the vitals, ultimately died. Ako's fiancé's younger brother, the dark-haired boy at the time, is now the renowned Seiya. With no other family members, Seiya became an orphan after his brother's death. Seiya's brother's death, and his own sister's subsequent rescue, inspired Yuko to adopt Seiya and call herself his mother. Although Ako survived, she remained in a coma due to her injuries, and the ongoing medical expenses were enormous. Forced to do so, Yuko dropped out of school and, leveraging her drawing skills, became an illustrator. However, Yuko's income came primarily from other sources, as she was a renowned manga artist. I want to rest, but I can't afford to not work hard. My sister's hospital bills, and our living expenses for this month, are all gone. My sister's savings from her idol career have been completely depleted. If we don't make any more money, we won't even have instant noodles. Yuko patted Seiya's head, signaling him to go to bed, and threatened him that children who stay up late won't grow taller. Yuko, I've thought it over. I'm going to accept Arima's suggestion and try my hand at becoming a child star. The Arima Seiya was referring to was Kana Arima, a small, shoulder-length, burgundy-haired Lolita who lived next door to Seiya's family. And Erin McKenna is no ordinary Lolita, but a prodigy known as the child star who can burst into tears in 10 seconds, because she doesn't know how to deal with people and has a tsundere personality. She has had almost no friends since she was a child. Seiya, being mature and not wanting to argue with a child, is the only one who can tolerate her willful behavior. Therefore, this prodigy is quite caring towards Seiya. Erin McKenna had said that Seiya was much more mature than other kids his age and that she could help him get into the entertainment industry. At the time, Seiya felt that he was a time traveler, and it was embarrassing to have a 6-year-old Lolita to look after him, so he refused. But now, looking at Yuko staying up late to draw her book, Seiya suddenly felt that if he didn't do something, he would be living a life worse than a dog. Really? Our Seiya wants to be a star too? Then Yuko's mom will always support you. But it's late now, our big star, it's time to go to bed. Obviously, Yuko didn't take what Seiya said too seriously, so she still spoke to Seiya in the tone of coaxing a child. Seiya was quite helpless about this. After all, at his current age, even if he said seriously that a man should take on the responsibility of taking care of his family, it would probably only make Yuko laugh. Right, it's originally a revenge show? Do your values follow your facial expressions? The sword still needs to be used, and they traveled through time at the same time. In the later period, they shared mysterious powers, so resurrection is not impossible. Chapter 39, Become a Child Star and Debut. Kanto, Gunma Prefecture, Akina Mountain. Akina Mountain is, of course, the famous Akina Mountain, but Seiya wasn't here for racing today. There were no AE-86s or tofu shops here. After all, this world isn't about catching shrimp, it's about the children I support. It turns out that the talented child star Kana Arima has quite a wild side. A few days ago, Seiya told Kana Arima that he'd decided to try his hand at acting. Kana Arima then played coquettishly on her mother, getting her to talk to the director. Finally, after 10 days, she secured a supporting role for Seiya. Seiya said he didn't need any pay, just wanted to gain experience, and with Kana Arima's support, the director reluctantly agreed. Seiya is still a child, so even for a role on set, he needs a guardian. Originally, Yuko was supposed to be the guardian, but she's been busy with her manuscripts lately and hasn't had the time, so she asked Kana Arima's mother for help. Seiya, I've asked the director for you. You won't have many scenes this time. Just hold your bamboo sword, look determined, and swing it wildly in front of you. You have to act well. Kana has been begging for this opportunity. If you let Kana down, you won't be allowed to act anymore. A burgundy-haired girl in a white dress and beret stood before Seiya, hands on her hips, offering her acting advice as a senior. Alright, everyone, get ready. We're about to begin filming the next scene. Kana-chan, and that kid over there, is your name Seiya-kun? It's your turn. With the director's command, the crew quickly got to work. Seiya was quickly dressed in kendo uniform and given a bamboo sword. Hey, didn't I tell you before that we need small, hollow bamboo swords? This kid's only about 5, how can he wield a sword that's almost as long as him? The film Seiya and his crew are filming is a romantic drama titled From Now On, I'll Protect You. The plot revolves around a female protagonist, dissatisfied with her arranged marriage, who runs away from home and meets her true love. Kana plays the young female protagonist, who wanders into the mountains after running away and encounters a young man who lives with his grandfather. Because she's the young female protagonist, Kana has plenty of scenes in the film. Seiya, on the other hand, only has this one scene of the young kendo player. Because it's a low-budget film, the second male lead doesn't appear until he falls off a cliff after battling a wolf. When he returns, he's a handsome, youthful man many years later. According to the script, Seiya only needed to hold the bamboo sword, manage a few expressions, then recklessly charge at the wolf, swinging the sword a few times, and the scene was over. This wasn't a demanding performance for a newcomer. Furthermore, Seiya's appearance was quite striking, which is why the director agreed to Seiya's cameo. A bamboo sword? For a debut, it's surprisingly suitable for me. The director was still scolding the props team for their lack of care and was considering editing out Seiya's sword swings in post-production when he noticed Seiya, on the other side, already grasping the solid bamboo sword he had prepared. His pose seemed so realistic that he was stunned. Seiya-kun, can you handle this bamboo sword? Seeing Seiya's impressive handling, the director's eyes lit up and asked. No problem. I'm not quite mature, but I've taken kendo lessons. Hearing Seiya's kendo experience, the director was immediately delighted and asked, so, can you wield this bamboo sword? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Seiya didn't answer the question. Instead, he grasped the bamboo sword, which was almost as tall as him, with both hands and began to swing it in the air. Excellent. I originally gave you this role simply out of respect for Arima. But now it seems like there's no one better suited for it than you. Watching Seiya wield the sword, the director beamed with satisfaction and offered generous praise. It's hard to be too critical of young children's acting skills. After all, there aren't many talented child actors like Kana Arima. Seiya's kendo skills were perfectly suited to the role, and his other acting skills were no longer important. With all the preparations complete, the actors naturally took their places. Besides the two young actors, Seiya and Kana, another actor soon appeared. Because this was a low-budget film, overly realistic special effects weren't possible. With current technology, it wasn't impossible to create a lifelike wolf directly with computer graphics, but the budget simply wasn't there. So, to complete the performance, a police dog resembling a wolf was quickly brought out by the staff. Kana-chan, don't be too scared. This dog is a trained police dog, just made up to look like a wolf. We'll have someone outside directing it to charge at you, and all you have to do, Seiya-kun, is wield your wooden sword to repel it. Despite the director's assurances, Kana was still startled by the wolf-like police dog's appearance. This wasn't surprising, considering they were only 5 or 6 years old, and the wolf-like police dog, even on all fours, was almost as tall as them. For a child, the sight of such a massive creature pouncing on them would have been a stroke of terror, let alone fear. Any child would have burst into tears. Don't be afraid, Seiya-kun. Just imagine it's a big dog flying towards you. Before filming officially began, the director reminded Seiya again. In this scene, Kana is a runaway girl, and it's normal for her to be afraid of a wolf. But Seiya, who is protecting Kana, can't show a timid expression when facing a wolf, a difficult task for a child. Previously, the director considered switching shots, skipping Seiya's expression and focusing on a close-up of the wolf or just showing Seiya from behind. However, the kendo skills Seiya had just displayed made him feel that Seiya was a talented person, and it would be a shame not to have him appear in the film. Chapter 40 The Child is Gold in the Sand. The director had previously given Seiya this cameo role solely out of respect for Magana and the fact that Seiya didn't need any pay. The role was essentially a non-player character, requiring either high or near zero acting skills. High acting skills meant finding a child who could face a wolf lunging at them without batting an eye, which was nearly impossible. Meanwhile, the near zero acting requirements involved this shot, which the technical team could easily manipulate through post-production to create a close-up of the wolf or the actor's back. This meant that almost any actor, male or female, could fit the bill, regardless of their child's appearance. However, after seeing Seiya's performance, the director changed his mind. He saw Seiya's striking appearance, at least enough to debut as a child actor. Furthermore, given the kendo boy setting, it would be a shame to cut all of his scenes. Therefore, the director, out of good intentions, gave Seiya several reminders before filming began. Of course, while he valued Seiya's talent and saw his potential, there was only so much he could do. If Seiya failed several attempts in a row, there was nothing he could do. After all, film costs money, and everyone's time is precious. Giving Seiya chance after chance was impossible. If he could pull it off, he would naturally give him close-ups, and perhaps Seiya would gradually stand out on the film. But if he couldn't, then he would have to stick to his original plan and edit out Seiya's facial expressions and shots in post-production. Action. With the director's command, the technicians nearby immediately gave the police dog instructions. The dog, receiving the instructions, charged towards Seiya and Kana in an instant. Large dogs naturally resemble wolves, and combined with the props team's masterful makeup, the police dog charging towards Seiya and his companions truly looked like a hungry wolf with bare teeth. "Ah! Don't come over here," the child star, who could burst into tears in just 10 seconds, cried without hesitation. But Seiya could tell that Magana, that tsundere little girl, was genuinely frightened and not just acting. The original script didn't include Kana falling down out of fear. But the director didn't stop the scene, which meant that Kana's fear didn't affect the original plot. In fact, it could be said that Kana's fear was even more faithful to the original plot. In that case, it's my turn now. According to the original script, Seiya was supposed to charge at the approaching wolf with his sword, only to be sent flying by the wolf's claws. The director's instructions were simply to avoid showing fear by swinging his sword recklessly. But as a national kendo champion, asking him to swing his sword recklessly was a bit of a stretch. Anyway, just strike its claws with your sword and then pretend to be swatted away, right? Seiya, understanding roughly what he should do, looked up again the next moment, his eyes instantly changing. The director, who had been glued to the camera, was stunned when he saw Seiya's expression. He had assumed that a 5-year-old, even with all his preparation, would show a flicker of fear in the face of such a big moment, but when he saw the look in Seiya's eyes, he was completely stunned. What kind of look was that? What kind of expression? How could a mere 5-year-old, facing a hungry wolf, display such a resolute and courageous expression? Is this really a 5-year-old? Could someone this young possess such mental fortitude? And soon, everyone present, including the director, was stunned by Seiya's next move. According to the director's instructions, Seiya only needed to casually swing his sword forward, even though the script featured a kendo boy battling a wolf. Considering the police dog's fighting power, even an average adult, let alone a 5-year-old, would likely be no match. However, what the director and everyone present didn't expect was that the moment he saw the wolf lunge, Seiya's tiny body suddenly launched forward like a cannonball, swinging his bamboo sword, which was slightly taller than himself, directly at the wolf's claws. "No matter what happens, I will never retreat. Because my grandfather once said, the sword in my hand is wielded to protect the weak." As Seiya swung his bamboo sword, his expression was determined as he delivered his only line in the film. Having shared the power of Seiya from another world, even in his current 5-year-old form, he could fight not only a harmless police dog, but also a truly hungry wolf. But after Seiya struck, he suddenly remembered that according to the film's script, he should have been knocked back. So, quickly, after a single sweep, Seiya's body surged through the air, unleashing a powerful force, and he flung himself backwards into flying motion. "Yuanyi, tell the police dog to lunge at the child again." The crew members froze at the director's words, as their scene should have ended by then. "Don't stand there, I'm the director. Now do what I say. Don't you see? That child is a hidden gem buried in the sand. are the emotions and actions you just showed a 5-year-old? His performance could be even more captivating, but the plot is limiting his potential. Hearing the director's words, everyone present realized that the director had recognized Seiya's talent and was planning to give him more scenes. While such scenes were rare during filming, they were the director's privilege. Whoa! A staff member outside the arena whistled and then made a few hand gestures. Hungry Wolf, who had been slowly approaching Kana, suddenly turned his head to look at Seiya, who was not far away. Seiya, who had already been lying on the ground, was about to leave the arena, but when he saw Hungry Wolf pounce on him again, with the camera still trained on him, he was completely stunned. This is completely different from the script I got. Chapter 41. Is this the acting of a 5-year-old child? The camera remained focused on him, and the grinning gorilla continued to slowly approach him. Looking at the director and others in the distance giving him a thumbs up, Seiya naturally understood this was an opportunity to add to his acting. But with his uninformed, unfettered access to his acting, had these adults truly considered the fact that he was just a 5-year-old? He'd been a bit of a fool to ask for no pay beforehand. After such a hard-working performance, not getting a little extra afterward was truly absurd. Watching Gorilla slowly approach him, Seiya could only use his bamboo sword to support himself, then struggle to get back to his feet. Soon, the director and crew witnessed a true essence of a young kendo prodigy. A 5-year-old child, actually wielding a bamboo sword, was engaging a police dog disguised as Garu. Whether dodging or striking, his movements were so natural. The scene where Seiya used his bamboo sword to block Garu's sharp teeth was truly breathtaking. They were clearly the ones filming the movie, but for a moment, they even felt as if the scene before them was incredibly real. Seiya's original screen time in the film was supposed to be only about a minute, but the fight scene was extended to over 5 minutes. According to the director, this fight scene alone elevated the entire film. As for the running time, there was no need to worry, all that was needed was to trim out any insignificant plot points. Kid, my name is Ochiro Akawa. I apologize for previously underestimating you. This is my business card. Your talent and potential far exceed my initial expectations. If you were you, you might actually have the potential to become the brightest child star. After filming Wrapped, director Akawa not only approached Seiya but also paid him a 30,000 yen fee. Although Seiya had originally agreed not to take any payment, his performance was exceptionally strong, and he had significantly more scenes than before, so he was paid nonetheless. Looking at the envelope containing the 10,000 yen bill and the business card in his hand, Seiya paused for a moment before a faint smile finally crossed his face. Being an entertainer was indeed quite lucrative. He was just an unknown stranger, and for just a few minutes of acting himself, he was already paid 30,000 yen. Considering Yuko's daily grind at home, she only earned a few 100,000 yen a month. Even with that kind of income, she was already considered middle to high income for her peers. HMPH, you didn't tell Kana before that you could do the kind of kendo. Damn it. Now everyone on the crew is praising you, and no one's talking about Kana's acting. She's just a newcomer, and her acting is barely up to snuff. Why did Kana lose? For a first acting try, Seiya was quite satisfied with his performance. While it wasn't a debut, it was still a stepping stone, and getting paid for her first performance was a welcome relief. Seiya was quite pleased with the outcome. However, he was happy, but a certain lolly beside him was unhappy about it. With Magana as a talented child star, let's not talk about adult actors for now. As far as child stars are concerned, she is obviously the big name. Now she can't accept that as a senior, she was actually overshadowed by a newcomer, Seiya. This is the second time that Kano has tasted defeat at the hands of her peers. The last time was a guy named Hoshino Aqua, and this time it was Seiya again. No matter whether it was that Aqua or Seiya, they were obviously of the same age as her, but as a talented child star, she was defeated, which made her quite unwilling. Don't worry, Kana-chan. The only reason I've been able to overshadow you, a child prodigy, is simply because this role is such a perfect match for me. An actor's job is to be able to handle a wide range of roles. I'm still a long way from you, the child prodigy, Kana. And I think Kana's acting is amazing. I feel like I'm learning a lot just by watching, there's no other way. Seiya had this opportunity, ultimately, thanks to Magana's efforts, and he's grateful for that. So, now that tsundere lolly is upset, Seiya naturally has to comfort her. HMPH, it's good that you know how good Kana is. Being an actor is so difficult. But your performance just now was pretty good. Of course, it's still far behind the child prodigy Kana. Even with her tsundere side, Kana is still just a lolly, and she'll get complacent when she hears praise and affirmation from others. The compliments from Seiya, his sensible junior, quickly made him forget his previous annoyance, and he trotted back to his mother. Yuko was visibly surprised when Seiya returned home with the 30,000 yen he'd earned. She'd assumed Seiya was simply enjoying the scenery with the crew, but she hadn't expected him to actually receive pay in the end. When Yuko heard Arima Kana's mother say that Director Okawa had high hopes for Seiya, she gazed at Seiya's innocent face in amazement. Seiya didn't take the 30,000 yen, believing it was a drop in the bucket for their current situation. She also felt it would be humiliating for her, as an adult, to rely on a child to earn a living. So, at Yuko's suggestion, Seiya used the 30,000 yen to take Seiya on a day of fun, and they even went to the cinema to see the film on its premiere. After all, this is Seiya's first movie. Although he is just a minor role, Yuko thinks it is of great significance, so she must go to support it. And because she was busy with work that day, Yuko was unable to go to the filming site, and she has always felt very sorry about it. Even if she missed a filming site, she naturally couldn't miss the premiere. At the same time, she was also very curious about how good Seiya's performance in the movie was, that he was appreciated by the director. The movie From Now On to Protect You is a movie adapted from an anime. Because the budget is not large, there are not many people coming to watch it. When Yuko brought Seiya into the theater, there were almost only a few couples scattered around, and a die-hard fan of the original anime. As for those who came with children like her, there was almost no one at the scene, because this movie is a love story and is not suitable for children at all. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Movie Premiere. Seiya's acting skills shocked the world. Of course, even though it was a romance film, Yuko had researched it before bringing Seiya to see it, and it contained no adult content. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have brought him. Despite being a manga artist, she was deeply concerned for Seiya's physical and mental well-being. She usually forbade Seiya from entering her room while she was working, lest he see anything he shouldn't and learn bad habits. What Yuko didn't know was that Seiya, despite his childish appearance, possessed a far more mature soul. What Yuko understood, Seiya understood, and what Yuko didn't, Seiya understood as well. Furthermore, Seiya had undoubtedly read countless of the manga Yuko was so secretive about. As for his impressions, Seiya's were only average. Yuko's style was impeccable, but for a manga artist, her ideas weren't broad enough. Or, to put it simply, they weren't perverse enough to whet the appetites of the perverted. But it's not her fault. After all, while Yuko may be beautiful and have a stunning figure, she's still a young girl, and having been a virgin since birth, it's normal for her to lack inspiration. As a seasoned veteran in his previous life, Seiya certainly has plenty of themes and ideas to offer, but his current age and status make it unsuitable for him to offer them, lest he be mistaken for a pervert. As the lights dimmed, the movie began. As a romance anime, the early stages were fairly standard, not necessarily a ruination of the original story, but nothing truly remarkable either. However, the film quickly reached its first climax when the story progressed to the young heroine being chased into the mountains and confronted by a wolf. In the original anime, the kendo boy is quite skilled in combat. After all, the only difference between anime and film is that anime can recreate scenes through illustration. Even scenes that would be quite fantastical and unscientific in real life can be realized in anime. In reality, however, battling a Garu to a standstill is something that even adults, let alone children, might not be able to pull off. While the scene where the kendo boy battles the wolf is considered a climax in the anime fans know it's difficult to replicate in film. Given the typical nature of comic-based films, this scene is likely to be cut or reworked. However, when the young man, bamboo sword in hand, appeared on the giant screen, his head raised with a determined look, his eyes unyielding, the audience was stunned. Is this a movie, not anime? What's with this boy? Is this the real Seiya? Can someone tell me this boy is a computer-generated creation, not a real person? Seeing this boy makes me feel like I'm old and living like a dog. If I were to fight this boy, I wouldn't even be able to beat a child. Holy crap, this kid is awesome. He's from a kendo family there, and he's actually making a cameo appearance on a film set. It's now a social norm that movie theaters must remain silent. However, when Seiya fought Garou, especially when Seiya held Garou's teeth with his bamboo sword while Garou's saliva dripped onto Seiya's face, many in the audience gasped in amazement. Many young anime fans, often smitten with a chunibyo, literally chunibyo, felt a sudden empathy when they saw Seiya's deft sword swings and his repeated attempts to rise. Their chunibyo spirits surged, and they exclaimed that the boy in the movie was none other than Seiya himself. Seiya is the name of the kendo boy and also the young protagonist in the film. For a moment, the previously silent theater erupted in a riot of demons, and only silence returned after theater staff arrived. For a nearly 2-hour film, a 5-minute fight sequence isn't long, but it's also not short either. When Seiya's character was knocked off a cliff, everyone in the theater sighed deeply. Yuko, who had originally been sitting next to Seiya, had been holding onto Seiya's wrist tightly throughout the fight between Seiya and Garou. The force she exerted was so immense that if Seiya hadn't been so much stronger now that he'd shared his abilities, a 5-year-old wouldn't have been able to withstand such a torment. When Seiya finally fell helplessly off the cliff, Yuko, clearly engrossed in the role, nervously grabbed Seiya and grabbed him, clutching his head tightly. His head suddenly sank deep into the rift valley, a fragrant aroma filling his nostrils. But soon, Seiya felt a strong suffocation. Yuko, I'm in so much pain. That was just acting, but if you don't let me go, I'm really going to die. Hearing Seiya's broken voice, Yuko, having recovered, realized that she had been a little too excited. Seeing Seiya, who looked as if he were suffocating, Yuko quickly and slowly released her grip, saying, I'm sorry. The child in the film looks just like you, Seiya. And I didn't expect little Seiya to act so well, so for a moment I really thought you were in danger. Although the scene with Seiya on screen had ended, Yuko was still clearly stunned. Her praise wasn't meant as encouragement or comfort, it was simply because she truly believed Seiya's acting was exceptional. She found it hard to believe that a 5-year-old could achieve such proficiency, both in his movements and his expression. She also finally understood why Mrs. Arima had previously said that Seiya would be appreciated by director Okawa. Looking at Seiya, who was still sitting on her lap, Yuko touched the latter's head, and then couldn't help laughing and said, I really didn't expect that our little Seiya actually has such a talent. There were no more shots of Seiya, but Yuko and Seiya still watched the whole movie patiently to the end. During this period, Seiya wanted to sit back in his seat, but Yuko treated him like a puppet and kept pressing him on her lap. When Seiya cast a puzzled look at the other party, Yuko also said, I'm so scared that Seiya will suddenly encounter danger like in the movie. My sister is still lying in a coma in the hospital. Now I only have you, little Seiya, as a family. And you are just a 5-year-old child. It's okay to act coquettishly to adults occasionally. Chapter 43, Crazy. Seiya becomes instantly popular. With Seiya's current physique, it would have been easy for him to break free from Yuko's embrace. But now he had to act like a child, and the sight of Seiya in distress clearly touched Yuko's fragile heart, inevitably reminding her of the day her sister was attacked. She was only in her early 20s, and on that day, she lost everything. Now, Yuko not only had to pay for her sister's medical expenses, who was still receiving treatment, but also had to care for Seiya, who was only 5 years old. To others, Yuko might seem like a strong girl, but Seiya knew that this seemingly strong girl often cried secretly late at night. After all, despite her pretense of strength, Yuko was just a college student who hadn't yet graduated. It must have been hard for her to hold on under such immense pressure. As if sensing Yuko's vulnerability, Seiya gave up his struggle and obediently let himself be held in Yuko's arms, enjoying the voluptuous thigh cushions and the soft breast pillow, and watched the entire movie. Being able to sit in Yuko's arms while watching a movie was probably one of the privileges of being a child. Young Seiya's performance was amazing. Let's go to the next show. I don't know where this crew found the actors. That kid is incredible. Hey, young Seiya is a near-perfect reproduction of his anime character, but in comparison, the grown-up Seiya is such a disappointment. Indeed, Seiya's performance as a young boy had me excited for the rest of the story. After all, the adult Seiya was definitely even more powerful. But who knew the later plot would be such a disappointment? Not only were the famous scenes from the anime cut, but the grown-up Seiya left me with the impression of a pure, pretty boy. Aside from his good looks, he's practically useless. Not only does he lack the heroic spirit of young Seiya, but even his kendo skills are abysmal. As Seiya and Yuko left the theater, they heard many comments from the audience. Overall, the quality and fidelity of this manga adaptation were significantly elevated, thanks to Seiya's performance. Conversely, Seiya's performance also had a certain impact on the film itself. Manga-based films are generally romance-themed, despite the fact that action-packed anime has a larger audience. However, when it comes to remaking anime into film, most investors and directors choose daily life or romance-themed shows. The reason is simple: while action-packed anime is more exciting, recreating them is far more challenging. Those intense battle scenes, if you're willing to spend the money, might be possible with advanced special effects. However, the action skills of some actors are highly dependent on their own quality, especially the male protagonists in action-packed anime, who are typically young and handsome. But where can you find such actors in the real world? Action actors typically require years of training, and young actors generally can't pull it off. Meanwhile, veteran actors with real talent can't portray passionate young men. This creates a vicious cycle, making it virtually impossible for anyone to film action-packed manga-based films. Take Seiya's recent film, From Now On, I'll Protect You. While there are some fight scenes in the original anime, they're not numerous. Therefore, the film adaptations tend to focus on romance. However, Seiya's portrayal of the young Seiya is so remarkably realistic that viewers experience a profound disparity when seeing the grown-up Seiya. Whether it's film, comics, or novels, it's fine to play with a downer at first, then a boost later on, as long as the backstory is exciting. But when you play with a boost later on, who the hell can handle that? I'm so excited, my pants are already off, and then you tell me you're actually a man? After falling off a cliff, the protagonist is the returning Long Aoshin, but in the rest of the story, he's transformed into a scumbag who only knows how to talk and flirt. Who the hell can handle that? He's supposed to have returned stronger, but the final result gives the impression that he's even weaker than his youth, so naturally, the audience can't accept it. Several days have passed since the film premiered, and the buzz surrounding From Now On, I'm Watching You continues to grow. A low-budget romance film like this wouldn't have generated such buzz, but Seiya's performance is truly breathtaking. Everyone who saw the film exclaimed, "Young Seiya is awesome." This praise naturally piqued the curiosity of those who were previously uninterested in the film, eager to see just how impressive the young man in the film truly is. Soon, upon exiting the theater, they too would join the crowd in exclaiming, "Young Seiya is awesome." With the current advancements of the internet, the meme's popularity has only grown. Within just a few days, the line was being constantly reposted by YouTubers and influencers, leading to young Seiya going viral. However, despite Seiya's impressive performance, From Now On, I'm Watching You has seen its ratings plummet, becoming one of the year's worst films. Aside from the fact that the adult Seiya is simply worse than the young Seiya, many viewers are dissatisfied with the film. A major reason for this is their frustration with the director and producers for not giving the young protagonists more storylines. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the two children in the film are far superior to their grown-up counterparts in both acting and performance. Compared to the children, the grown-up protagonists, aside from their striking appearance, are practically unremarkable, seemingly shoehorned into the cast. Indeed, since the film premiered, nearly every character and crew member has been lambasted by the audience. However, Arimika Kana, aside from Seiya, is one of the few who hasn't been criticized, and has even been praised. After all, Kana and Seiya are a perfect couple in the film, and audiences are clearly more forgiving of children. Honestly, for a 6-year-old like Arimika to achieve this level of acting is truly exceptional. Compared to her, the acting of the other protagonists is simply appalling. Seeing the unanimous praise online for young Seiya's acting and performance, Yuko was filled with pride. However, Seiya, watching this scene, was far from happy. He was naturally happy that his performance was recognized, but he was a newbie, barely getting into showbiz, and he had already botched his first film. How could anyone ever hire him to act again? Chapter 44 The Director Who Came to Me. Seiya, look. Even the manga author behind From Now On, has spoken out. He's saying that the young boy you portray, Seiya, is his ideal young boy, Yuko. Upon seeing the overwhelmingly positive reviews online for Seiya, beamed with pride, as if Seiya's talent was entirely hers. Especially after seeing the original author's praise, she excitedly picked him up and drooled all over his face. Oh, the movie ratings for From Now On have dropped again. My acting career hasn't even taken off, and it's already been stillborn. With a look of disdain, Seiya shoved Yuko's head away, wiped the saliva from his face, and a look of despair crossed his face. This was completely different from what he had expected. Originally, Seiya had thought that with his mature mind, the exceptional physique gained from his shared abilities, and his already impressive looks, he could try his hand at the entertainment industry. At first, he didn't even plan to ask for a salary, he just wanted a chance to appear in public and let more people discover his talent. And in the beginning, things were just as he expected. He showed his talent, got more opportunities from the director, and was remembered by him. But what he never expected was that after the movie was broadcast, the trend would change directly like this. There was nothing wrong with his efforts, but the mistake was that he went too far, and now it has the opposite effect. Director Okawa may have appreciated him before, but under such public opinion now, the ratings of the movie are getting lower and lower. The other party will still support him in the future, so it would be good if he didn't get rid of him on the spot. It seems that I can't make it in the entertainment industry. I can only think of other ways to make money. I don't know if the tennis industry in this world is well developed. If I become a professional player, how fast can I make money? But even if professional tennis players make money, I'm only 5 years old now. With the current situation of this family, I obviously can't wait that long. Ding ling ling ling, moshi moshi, that's right, this is Wenrin's house. Yes, that's right, my name is Wenrin Yuko, and I'm Wenrin Seiya's guardian. May I ask? Seiya was still muttering to himself softly, thinking about other ways to make money quickly besides being a child star. At this moment, the phone at home suddenly rang, and Yuko hurried over to answer it. If that doesn't work, why not send Yuko an anonymous email and give her some inspiration and ideas? I remember in my past life, themes like big cars and widows were pretty popular. Who said someone was going to send me something anonymously? Seiya was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't even notice Yuko had suddenly appeared beside him. Seiya was startled by her curious question, but then, confirming she hadn't fully heard him, he breathed a sigh of relief. He shook his hands and laughed. No, I mean, as a famous artist, do you get anonymous emails from fans? Anonymous emails? I think so, but they were just things. Yuko instinctively wanted to answer Seiya's question, but when she remembered he was just a child, she blushed and changed the subject. Instead of those unimportant things, Seiya-chan, I just received some great news. If you call me mom right now and tell me you'll always love me, I'll tell you this good news. Seiya's childish face was filled with disdain at the silly girl with a flowery smile. Why would a 20-year-old girl dwell on being a mother? Could it be because she's been drawing too many books? Seiya ignored Yuko's unreasonable request and instead walked to the phone, tiptoed, and activated the recording function. Because Yuko's manga editor often called to press for manuscripts and work, and Yuko, with her mind wandering, often forgets things, their phone had a recording function. After replaying the call, Seiya was surprised to discover that the caller was none other than the former director Okawa. Even more surprising to Seiya was that the caller had specifically sought the contact information from Arima's mother and had called to introduce Seiya to a new play. During the call, Yuko also had to ask director Okawa why. After all, while Seiya's performance in his film was excellent, it was an indisputable fact that he had ruined the other film. Both Yuko and Seiya were puzzled as to why director Okawa would offer a job to Seiya, who had offended him. Upon hearing Yuko's confusion, director Okawa smiled and explained the reason. In the entertainment industry, there are no such things as enemies, there are only eternal interests. While the viral hit Shonen Sawa has indeed caused the film's ratings to plummet, those in the industry are well aware that this film was originally intended to boost the popularity of a young actor. Even the poor reviews wouldn't significantly impact the director. On the contrary, despite the widespread criticism, the film's box office and popularity have skyrocketed. Why make movies? Simply to make money. The box office revenue of From Now On, Protect You has been very satisfactory to both investors and publishers, and even the director himself received a substantial bonus. And while the film's male and female leads have been slammed, they're not necessarily secretly happy right now. After all, before filming this movie, They were just 18th tier actors, barely any more famous than anyone else. But since the film's release, their popularity has skyrocketed. As the saying goes, even if they're black and red, they're still red. Many 18th tier actors don't even have the chance to be remembered. Furthermore, Seiya's performance has already put him in the public eye, and everyone knows he's a true gem. Even if director Okawa doesn't intervene, someone will eventually find information about him. Don't doubt the entertainment industry's ability to track down talented individuals. Once they spot someone, they're as sharp as a shark at the scent of blood. Director Okawa believes it's better to act sooner rather than later. After all, at this rate, Seiya's rise to fame is inevitable. Reaching out now could even earn him a favor. Chapter 45, 12 years later, Seiya enters high school. Adding icing on the cake is far less valuable than helping someone in need. A director with years of experience in the industry is naturally a seasoned veteran. This time, he took the initiative to approach Seiya about the role, and the favor wasn't just for Seiya alone. Another director who had asked him for a role also owed him a favor. But overall, the director did help him this time. So, are you ready to accept this role Director Okawa has offered you? Yuko walked up behind Seiya, knelt in front of him, and gently asked, patting his head. Yes, why not? Yuko, didn't you say we're so broke right now that we're practically living on instant noodles? Besides, this role Director Okawa has offered me is a perfect fit. There's really no reason to refuse. Director Okawa had offered Seiya the role of a young master in a Japanese drama set during the Warring States period. Because this young master had been gifted since childhood and possessed considerable martial prowess, the crew had been unable to find a suitable actor. A young member of the crew happened to see the viral online drama Young Seiya and showed the edited footage to the director. After watching the clip of Seiya battling the wolf, the middle-aged director's eyes lit up, and he immediately exclaimed, "Isn't this the actor they've been looking for?" The relationships in the entertainment industry are as complex as the roots of a tree, so the director, through an acquaintance, contacted Director Okawa, which led to the current scene. Compared to his previous minor roles in films, Seiya has a significant role in this drama. While still not a lead, second male lead, or even a significant supporting role, it's still a significant role. Director Okawa said filming would take a week, and he secured a salary of 1 million yen for Seiya. Such a salary is considered exorbitant for a new child actor with only a minor role. Director Okawa was able to negotiate such a salary for Seiya because, despite being a newcomer, he was already a hugely popular figure. With a week-long shoot, including a trip to Hokkaido, Yuko ultimately had no choice but to put aside her current work and accompany Seiya as his guardian. After all, manga could be drawn there, and to hear Seiya's salary, a whopping 1 million yen, honestly, it stung. Her own winner in Yuko, working day and night on her manga, only to earn less in a month than a 5-year-old like Seiya could. This devastated Yuko, making her feel like she'd lived a miserable 20 years. Time flew by like a fleeting horse, and in a flash, 12 years had passed. In a luxurious 2-story building, a handsome, dark-haired boy, a piece of toast in his mouth and school bag in hand, hurried out of the house marked Wenren. Seiya, you're not eating properly again. How many times do I have to tell you to remember that breakfast is important for your health? As the boy left the house, a beautiful woman with a proud figure, dressed in home clothes, her long hair tied back, and a spatula in hand, also followed him out the entrance. Okay, he's grown up now, so stop scolding him all the time. And he stays up late, after all, it's because you didn't wake him up in time today, right? You should change your personality. If you don't act more ladylike, you'll never get married. 12 years have passed, and Wenren Yaozi is already in her early 30s. The passage of time has not left any marks on her face, but has made her more charming and mature. Really, sister, you're just spoiling him too much? Even when I was in college, you still scolded me every other day. And didn't I tell you before that words like marriage and getting married are taboo in my area? Don't mention them in front of me anymore. From now on, my family will only be Seiya and you. I won't start a family with anyone else, and I won't leave this family. Upon hearing Yuko's words, another woman who appeared behind her and looked 70% similar to Yuko and equally beautiful sighed. Then, looking at her legs in the wheelchair, she clenched her fists and said with a hint of self-reproach, "It's all my fault for bringing trouble upon you two. Both you and Seiya should have had more wonderful lives, The person in the wheelchair, who could still scold Yuko, was naturally her sister, Ako. Since Seiya's debut as a child actor and his growing fame and fortune, Ako, who had been in a coma in the hospital, has received better treatment. After years of treatment, Ako successfully regained consciousness when Seiya was 10 years old. Unfortunately, due to the severity of the injury, Ako's lower body is paralyzed, so she can only move around in a wheelchair. According to the doctor, Ako's condition may not be completely recoverable, and there are quite advanced treatment methods in foreign countries. But the medical expenses are undoubtedly an astronomical figure. Because she is like a useless person, Ako has been blaming herself for many years and has even thought about committing suicide many times so as not to drag down Seiya and Yuko. Ako believes that Yuko has no intention of getting married even though she is over 30 years old, just to take care of her useless sister. Hearing her sister's discouraging words again, Yuko was furious. She walked over to Ayako and, looking at her seriously, said, "We're family. There's no such thing as a burden or not. If Seiya heard you say that, he'd probably ignore you for days. Have you forgotten what he told you after he found out you were trying to commit suicide? And, sister, could you please stop worrying about others? Who told you I didn't want to get married because of you?" Ayako bowed her head at Yuko's words. She still couldn't forget what Seiya had said when he'd saved her years earlier. To avoid being a burden to Seiya and Yuko, Ayako had slit her wrists in the bathroom. As she faded from consciousness and her life was rapidly slipping away, Seiya, returning home from school, discovered the scene and carried her for over 10 kilometers, ultimately rushing her to the hospital for emergency treatment. Ayako still couldn't understand how Seiya, then only 11 or 12 years old, could possess such immense strength. Chapter 46 A Gathering of Childhood Sweethearts? Seeing herself being rescued, Yazi could see the expression on the child's face, relief and ecstasy. Just as she was about to say something, a loud slap rang out directly beside her ear. Yes, that's right. She was already in her 20s, and she was slapped hard by a child of only 11 or 12. She was still weak and confused when she saw the child pressing her shoulder with tears in his eyes and saying, "What the hell do you think life is? Yuko and I worked so hard to pull you back from the Sanzu River, and what are you doing? Trampling on everything we gave? What would Yuko think if she knew that you chose to die in this way? Do you think that your death will make her feel at ease? No. Your behavior will only make her, who has eyes only for you, blame herself for the rest of her life. What's the big deal about paralyzed legs? There are many people in the world who are worse off than you. How many people are desperately trying to live, but you want to commit suicide? Did the doctor say that recovery is entirely possible? What does the astronomical cost of treatment matter? Yuko and I haven't given up, but you have already given up on yourself." In the ward that day, bursts of Seiya's heartfelt roars were heard, and Ako, who was directly hit in the heart, couldn't help but cover her mouth and cry after hearing these words from Seiya. She had never imagined that a grown woman like her would be pointed at and scolded by a half-grown child. Furthermore, Ako couldn't find a single excuse to refute him, even feeling ashamed to face Seiya. Honestly, when she first woke up, Ako was quite unfamiliar with Seiya's existence. After all, unlike Yuko, who had lived with Seiya for several years, Ako's impression of him was still that he was her fiancé's younger brother. When her sister Yuko revealed that Seiya had been adopted by her and changed his surname to Wenren, and that her medical expenses had largely been paid for by Seiya's career as a child actor, Ako was surprised but also deeply grateful. She had survived thanks to Seiya's first aid, and her subsequent treatment had also relied on him. So, technically, Seiya had saved her twice, or 3 times, including this time. Seiya's slap and his words had completely awakened Ako. From that day on, Ako began to treat Seiya like a true family member, doting on him and caring for him even more than she would for her own sister, Yuko. After returning from the hospital, Ako tried to smooth things over, but Seiya remained completely cold to her. This continued for months, until her birthday. From that moment on, Ako's biggest fear was that Seiya would suddenly become angry and ignore her. Okay, enough of this sad talk. Today is Seiya's first day at Yangdong High School. Didn't we agree to celebrate with him tonight? If you're willing to come and help, I won't tell that brat Seiya about what just happened, Yuko said, thrusting a blender and a large bowl of egg whites into Ako's hands, asking her to help. Yuko's grown up, and you're really mean. If you really get married, your husband will probably have a lot of headaches. This time, Yuko didn't get angry at Ako's words, because she could hear her sister teasing her. HMPH, if I really get married, there'll be no one to take care of you, sister, Yuko said, unwilling to be at a disadvantage. I'm not afraid. I still have little Seiya. He's much gentler than someone else, Ako said proudly, twirling the blender in her hand. Skillfully whipping the cream. Sister, you've probably forgotten, haven't you? Seiya is a 17-year-old high school student now, not the little kid who used to bathe with us. And he's been shy since he was a child. Do you still expect him to take care of your daily life? Hearing Yuko's words, Ako seemed to imagine something in her mind, and her face instantly blushed. As for Seiya, he had just entered Yangdong High School and encountered a boy and two girls wearing the same school uniform. Arima-san, it's been a few years since we last met. But you don't seem to have changed much, like your height. Looking at the man and two women before him, Seiya swallowed his toast and spoke to one of the three, a beautiful girl with burgundy hair, with a hint of teasing. 12 years had passed, and although Seiya and Arima-kana weren't as close as they were in their childhood due to a move, they still occasionally ran into each other due to work. If Seiya remembered correctly, the last time he saw Kana was 2 or 3 years ago. Back then, she was probably in her third year of junior high, while now she's a sophomore in high school. But to be frank, the girls didn't seem to have changed much in the past 2 or 3 years. Her face remained as youthful as ever, and while her breasts had become a little more defined, her height remained the same. Arima-kana was visibly taken aback when she saw Seiya, clearly not expecting to see so many old friends today. Yes, that's right. Besides Seiya, the man and woman who just walked beside her were actually people Kana Arima knew from childhood. Once known as a child prodigy, Kana Arima had only been beaten by 2 people in performances by her peers. One was the renowned Seiya, once considered her junior, but now far surpassing her. The other was Hoshino Aqua, whom she had met once on set. And just today, she unexpectedly ran into her rival, whom she had only met once, and now encountered her former junior and childhood friend. Kana was clearly more familiar with Seiya than Hoshino Aqua, as she had only met him once, over a decade prior. Kana Arima's memory of him was largely due to the fact that she had lost to someone her own age the first time. As for Seiya, he was her true childhood sweetheart, but due to unforeseen circumstances, his child prodigy status faded. Her mother was disappointed in her and moved back to her hometown, and she also moved because of work, so Kana had less contact with her childhood sweetheart. Chapter 47, Wenren Shengzai. That super popular actor? Hailed as a child prodigy, Kana Arima was known for her pride and arrogance, often boasting about her status as a celebrity and prone to verbal abuse. Due to her social incompetence and her high self-esteem, her popularity faded after elementary school. By the time she reached junior high school, Kana's work was few and far between, often in minor productions and roles. Simply put, as a child, Kana was known for her sharp tongue, willfulness, arrogance, and ego, often subjecting even Seiya to harsh words. Seiya last saw Kana Arima 2 or 3 years ago. At the time, Seiya had landed the lead role in a film, while Kana, who was also on the set, had a supporting role barely above a minor one. Seeing his childhood sweetheart after a long absence, Seiya planned to catch up after work. However, Seiya was surprised to find Kana nowhere to be found on the set, just as he finished his work. At the time, Seiya was even quite disappointed. After all, while the little girl back then had been a bit sharp-tongued, she had certainly helped him a lot. Later, Seiya considered trying to find Arima-kana's contact information. After all, with his current connections, it shouldn't have been difficult to do so. But thinking that she'd probably recognized him, yet had left so hastily, perhaps for a reason, Seiya ultimately chose not to bother her. Seiya hadn't expected to run into her again at the same high school after all these years, and judging by her appearance, she seemed to still be a sophomore there. Seiya, didn't I expect you'd also chosen Yangdong High School? And what did you mean by that? What do you mean I haven't changed at all in these 2 years? Damn. You even specifically mentioned my height? You know, I'm your senior now. Senior. Seriously, everyone's like this. As a junior, don't you know how to show some respect to a senior? Seeing Arima-kana complaining before him, and her tone, Seiya was visibly stunned. Then, with a smile, he said, I take it back, Kana. You've changed so much since you were before, I'm even a little uncomfortable with you." Hearing Seiya's words, Kana couldn't help but let out a wry smile. She naturally understood what Seiya meant. However, after all she'd been through, it would be unusual for her to remain unchanged. Her high self-esteem and inflexibility had caused her much hardship over the years. After enduring repeated social pressures, she had been forced to become more diplomatic and accommodating, and learn to come to terms with reality. Having lost her popularity in elementary school, her agency, where she'd worked as a child star, released her when she reached the upper grades. Despite trying various fields, she still found little popularity. Even when some companies offered her jobs based on her fame as a child star, it ultimately only added to their deficits. The series of setbacks completely shattered Kana Arima's former pride, and she even considered retiring several times. Ultimately, her desire for recognition and the affection of her fellow actors kept her going. She had indeed recognized Seiya on the set 2 years prior and considered approaching to greet her childhood friend. But when she saw Seiya surrounded by the crowd, she paused. She knew full well that the now celebrated Seiya was no longer the same. He and she were no longer in the same world. Looking at the current Seiya, Kana reflected on her past self and couldn't help but feel how ridiculous she had been. Seiya's current brilliance might not have been due to his lingering memory of her childhood friend, who had once spoken harshly to him. Rather than approach him and humiliate herself, she chose to quietly leave. This was Kana Arima's thought upon her reunion with Seiya 2 years ago. However, today, Kana hadn't expected to meet Seiya here either, and he was completely different from what she'd imagined. When Seiya teased her about her height, Arima Kana, though outwardly angry, was actually quite pleased. She'd noticed that Seiya's personality hadn't changed at all over the years. He hadn't become arrogant or conceited because of his celebrity status, he was still the same person, practically unchanged from his childhood. But soon, Arima Kana found it less surprising. After all, if Seiya had been the same as she was when she was little, he wouldn't have reached his current heights. Seeing that Seiya hadn't changed, still treating her like a childhood friend, Kana was about to approach him to reminisce, but a nearby blonde girl exclaimed, interrupting her. "Wenrin Seiya? No way. Is this really him? And wasn't Arima-senpai long out of fashion? Why does he look so familiar with such a popular actress?" Hearing the blonde's words, Arima Kana's mouth twitched again. She discovered that this girl named Hoshino Ruby was simply her natural enemy. Not long after they met, she had already delivered several psychic attacks to her. What was even more heartbreaking was that the girl's venomous words were not intentional, but came from the bottom of her heart. "Humph, the super popular actor you mentioned is actually my junior, and we are childhood sweethearts. What's so strange about knowing each other? Besides, this is Yangdong High School, the only school in the entire city that cultivates performing arts talents. It's not strange to meet idols, models, actors and other people in the industry here." Seeing that Seiya did not become alienated from her, Kana also put her hands on her hips and showed a smug look in front of Ruby. When Seiya saw the man and woman in front of him who seemed to be friends of Arima Kana, he introduced himself with a smile. "My name is Wenrin Seiya. As Kana said, I am her junior and childhood sweetheart. At the same time, like you, I am a freshman at Yangdong High School. I am grateful for your guidance." Seeing Seiya's natural self-introduction, Hoshino Ruby also showed a flattered attitude and said, "My name is Hoshino Ruby, and he is my brother Hoshino Aqua. I am grateful for your guidance. By the way, Mr. Wenrin is surprisingly easy to get along with. Although he is Arima-senpai's junior, his personality is completely different. He doesn't even have the airs of a big star. Just call me Seiya. This is a school, and we are all classmates. I always feel that using honorifics is a bit weird. Many people don't like this world. Actually, I wrote it quite well. But since you don't like it, I'll speed up the progress. There are probably about 10 chapters left." Tot. Chapter 48 Fate, meeting many years later. "You two must be twins, right? You have beautiful eyes. And this Aqua-sen, he feels familiar to me too. I wonder if we've met there before." Hoshino Aqua lowered his head in response to Seiya's question. When he regained his composure and raised his head again, his expression was impassive. "I think it's probably just an illusion. After all, this is the first time I've met Seiya-san in person. You must have seen Aqua's movie at my place before. He's been practically invisible for years. How could you possibly have seen him?" Kana Arima interrupted, overhearing Seiya and Aqua's conversation. Kana had studied Aqua's acting skills extensively in the past to develop a way to defeat him, and Seiya and Kana had often spent time together as childhood friends. So, Kana suspected that this was the reason Seiya found Aqua familiar. Seiya, is that so? I guess I'm just being overly suspicious. Glancing at the calm Aqua before him, Seiya smiled and accepted Arima Kanae's explanation. However, Seiya had already recognized Aqua, the survivor of the attack over a decade ago. Seiya's adopted brother in this world had died saving him. And judging by his reaction just now, Seiya could conclude that he had recognized him as well. As to why he chose to conceal this, Seiya had no idea. Indeed, the fan assassination over a decade ago was an unforgettable experience for Aqua. He witnessed his idol from his previous life, and his mother in this life, Hoshino Ai, die right before his eyes. Aqua hated his own helplessness at the time, but he also admired another child of his age who was present at the scene. As a reincarnated being, Hoshino Aqua, while now appearing to be a 17-year-old boy, was actually born with the body and soul of a doctor in his late 20s. It's absurd. Hoshino Ai was once one of Goro Amemiya's idols, even delivering her at birth. However, through a series of twists and turns, he was reincarnated as one of the idol's twin children. Her sister, Ruby Hoshino, is also a reincarnated person, just like him. While the identity of the person is unknown, years of contact suggest she was likely young. Being reincarnated as the child of one of his idols should have been a blessing for Aqua. But over a decade ago, disaster struck. A fanatic fan of Hoshino Ai, upon learning that her idol was married and had children, tracked down her home and brutally murdered their mother. Despite this fan's deranged actions, few people should have known where Hoshino Ai lived at the time. How was this person able to find her home and discover her child? To investigate the truth, Aqua spent years deciphering one of Hoshino Ai's personal cell phones and obtained a list of names. Aqua suspects that the events of that year were more complex than he'd imagined. The attack on Hoshino Ai was definitely not a sudden incident. The crazy fan might have been a mere casualty, while the true killer might still be at large. Aqua has secretly investigated everyone present at the time, including Wenrin Ako, Seiya, and even Seiya's deceased brother. Based on various connections, Seiya and the others were the first on his list of murderers. Aqua is deeply impressed by Wenrin Seiya. After all, although he was only 5 years old back then, the soul within him was that of an adult, paralyzed by the fear and shock of death. Yet, Seiya, his own age, saved one of the female victims with his tiny body. If he had possessed Seiya's courage, Ai might not have died. The reason Aqua was so moved by Seiya's presence was because the side of him reminded him of his own weakness and incompetence back then. Aqua had previously considered collaborating with Seiya, as his brother was also a victim of the attack. Since there was someone behind this incident, it meant they were also Seiya's enemies. However, considering that Seiya's brother had died because of him, dragging his brother into the fray felt like an act worse than pigs and dogs, so Aqua ultimately decided to go it alone. However, he did have some understanding of Seiya over the years. It was hard not to know him, after all, as his sister Ruby Hoshino said, Seiya was a super popular actor of the younger generation. Yangdong High School was divided into general and performing arts departments. The general department was not much different from other high schools. As for the performing arts department, the academic requirements were not very high. This was because many of the performing arts students were already in the industry. Although they were students, some of them earned far more than most adults. Furthermore, the general and performing arts departments were located in separate areas. While the school ostensibly discouraged stratification of students, the performing arts department's campus and environment were indeed significantly better than the general departments. Even the general students tacitly accepted this categorization. The reason was simple: not only did students in the performing arts department have to pay exorbitant tuition fees, but they also had to be signed to an agency or have previous experience in the industry. Otherwise, the performing arts department would be filled with handsome men and beautiful women. If someone simply came in to pursue celebrity, the performing arts department would lose its meaning. Arima Kana, assuming the three were all in the performing arts department, led them to that campus. However, halfway through the group, Aqua revealed she had enrolled in the general department, and so they parted ways. It seems we have a connection. I didn't expect we'd be in the same class. After Arima Kana left, Seiya and Ruby, searching for their own class, met again at the entrance of first year F class. When the two walked into the classroom side by side, many people in the room were stunned when they saw Seiya. No way, is this Seiya? Wenren Seiya? That super actor is also in our class. Oh my god, he is so much more handsome in person than on TV. I really want to show off to him online right now. My senior at the agency is Seiya's biggest fan. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49: A clash between super popular actors? Seiya paid no heed to the reactions of the crowd, smiling and nodding before finding a random, unassuming seat. After debuting as a child star, Seiya had gradually adapted to this kind of environment. It was indeed a bit awkward at first, but once he got used to it, it was nothing. While Seiya remained composed, Ruby Hoshino was clearly more flustered. In her previous life, she had been an ordinary girl, enrolled in the entertainment department with the goal of becoming an idol. But upon entering the classroom, the overwhelming pressure of being surrounded by beautiful women and handsome men was even greater. Many of these classmates looked familiar, evidently already debuted, having seen them on TV or in magazines. But Ruby quickly patted her cheek and pepped herself up. While the classmates here were all handsome and beautiful, she, having inherited her mother's beauty, stood no chance against the others. All she needed now was an opportunity. Just as Ruby was trying to cheer herself up with a mental victory, she noticed a rather striking pink-haired girl sitting next to her, staring intently at her. The reason she was so striking was that, despite being in the same high school class, she possessed a body that was undeniably stunning for her age. Apparently realizing her staring was rude, the pink-haired girl apologized. "I'm so sorry for staring at you. You're so beautiful. And you came in with that Wenren Shengaya. So, by the way, my name is Sumihoshi. Please give me some advice." The performing arts department is truly full of hidden talents. Ruby felt a little shy at the compliment, then picked up her phone and started searching right in front of her. "Wow, you're a photo model, and a lesbian, too. So sexy." Seeing her acting out of the ordinary and searching right in front of everyone, Sumihoshi blushed and tried to stop her from doing so. "I'm just a small-time model who debuted not long ago. I can't compare to those big names," Suminami said, stealing a glance at Seiya, who was sitting in the other corner. Because of Seiya's earlier approachability, several students were already standing by his seat, trying to get close to him. "Are you talking about Seiya? His words are indeed different. But he debuted as a child star. Although we're the same age, his qualifications and experience are completely different from ours. Comparing him to me is completely meaningless. And my name is Hoshino Ruby, you can just call me Ruby. Please give me your guidance." After saying this, Ruby's mood became even lower. Suminami and the others were only slightly behind Seiya, but at least they were considered industry insiders. Hoshino Ruby, on the other hand, had only recently signed a contract with Berry Productions and had never held a job. Although she aspired to be an idol, she was currently just calling herself an idol. Ruby called Wenren-kun by his name, and we just came in together. Could it be? No, you're overthinking that. Seiya and I just met today. We just happened to know someone from the same senior class, so we were brought here together. But you, Suminami, have been really interested in Seiya's topic ever since. Could he be your fan?" The seemingly shy Suminami didn't deny Ruby's question this time, but nodded excitedly. "It's not just me. Everyone in my family fans Wenren-kun. I never thought I'd be in the same class with him." It's unbelievable. Seeing Suminami's excitement, Ruby didn't find it strange. After all, even people in the industry have their fans. And for fans, being in the same class with their idol is truly exciting and joyful. To Ruby, Suminami's current state seemed perfectly normal. If her past self had suddenly become a classmate, or even a friend, of Hoshino AI, she'd probably be even more ecstatic than Suminami. Well, even though we're both in the performing arts department, compared to a big name like Seiya, the other students should be pretty much the same as normal people, right? Looking at Seiya, surrounded by people asking questions, Ruby suddenly felt that these already debuted classmates weren't that different from her. That's not the case. Our class is pretty amazing this year. Besides Wenren-kun, there's another super popular actress, Shirin Yumeru. She's in our class too. I always thought they had the same name, Wenren Seiya, Shirin Yumeru. Two of the hottest and most popular young actors right now are actually in our class. Before Suminami could finish their words, the exclamations of the crowd caught their attention. When they turned in the direction of the exclamation, they saw a strikingly beautiful girl with long dark green hair and beauty marks at the corners of her mouth and eyes, strutting into the classroom with a dashing presence. In a split second, her presence captivated everyone's attention, even Ruby and Suminami, who were also women. Shirinu Marilu, the young actress who shot to fame on Monday night's 9 p.m. drama, was incredibly popular. Furthermore, she had achieved remarkable success not only in her acting career but also in commercials, acting, and singing, making her a dedicated and versatile artist. It's fair to say that compared to the other barely 18th-tier performers in the class, Shirinu Marilu was already a top-tier talent. Among her peers, her achievements were truly impressive. Seeing Shirinu Marilu radiate a noble and cool aura, Ruby, Suminami, and even the rest of the class, even their conversations quieted down. As soon as Shirinu Marilu entered the classroom, she seemed quite dissatisfied with the atmosphere. Seeing Seiya sitting in the corner, she seemed quite surprised. After a moment's hesitation, she walked over to Seiya's seat without hesitation. Perhaps because Shirinu Marilu exuded such a strong aura, many of the people who had just gathered around Seiya automatically left. They were clearly well aware that birds of a feather flock together. In this year's F class, the only person who could be friends with Shirinu Marilu was probably Winrin Seiya. Chapter 50, A Popular Idol with Few Friends? When the students in Class F of the first year saw Shirinu Marilu approach Seiya, their hearts leaped to their throats. The entertainment industry is a chaotic place. While many actors appear to be close on screen, their private relationships are often fraught with conflict. Seiya debuted as a child actor and is one of the few action stars in the industry. Whether playing a samurai, the leading man in a manga adaptation, or exploring adventures in films or TV series, he perfectly captures the character. Despite his young age, his acting skills, especially his kendo and martial arts skills, have earned him the nickname Wuchu, meaning the brightest star in the martial arts world. It's even been said that Seiya is now a representative figure in this genre. Compared to Seiya, Shirinu Marilu is a rising star who has risen to prominence in recent years. While her achievements as an actor may not be as impressive as Seiya's, she is a versatile artist, making her popularity comparable to his. Since Seiya and Shirinu Marilu are of similar age, one a talented actor who debuted as a child star, the other an idol actress who debuted as a rising star, they are often compared in the media. So when Shirinu Marilu approached Seiya, the students expected a close duel. After all, many gossip magazines had previously reported that Winrin Seiya and Shirinu Marilu were fierce rivals, with a very bad relationship. Seiya, I didn't expect you to be in this class. I guess we won't be so bored anymore. And you, how come you always manage to connect so quickly wherever you go? I've asked you before if you have a secret, but you always said you just let things flow. But it seems you do have one, but you're just keeping it a secret and won't tell me. Shirinu Marilu, a popular female actress, appears unusually dignified and aloof to everyone. After walking up to Seiya, she skillfully placed both hands on his shoulders and shook him frantically. I'm not wrong, because I've always been like this. The reason they all shy away from you, Marie, must be because your aura is too intimidating, no, too overwhelming. Well, you're Marie Shirinu, after all. Being around you makes even me feel stressed. Perhaps unable to bear Seiya's teasing, Marie Shirinu angrily stabbed Seiya in the head. Then, raising her head high, she declared, if you tease me again, I'll expose your dirty laundry online tonight. The students present were stunned by the interaction between Seiya and Marie Shirinu. The expected bloody confrontation didn't unfold. There was no supposed fierce competition between Seiya, a child star, and Marie Shirinu, a rising star. Not only did they not fight, but they appeared to know each other and had a close relationship. Shirinu Marilu couldn't understand why she and Seiya were both super popular actors, but no matter when they were in junior high school or now, other people seemed to be afraid of her. And Seiya, this guy, seemed to be able to get along well no matter where he was. If Seiya was not arrogant, did Shirinu Marilu have that? She was obviously good at telling jokes. Was it because she usually had an icy face? It's not that she can't smile, but this is not acting. If she kept a fake smile all the time, it would feel hypocritical, right? Expose my dark history? I don't have as many dark history as you do, right? If you are not afraid of losing your idol image, then come and hurt each other, but just as he finished speaking, he saw SYNOPSIS in front of him with an interested expression on her face, as if she was really planning to try such an interesting thing. Seiya quickly raised his hands in surrender, saying, "Never mind, I give up. I almost forgot your true character. But if you're looking for a friend, I have someone I can introduce you to. After all, with our identities, it would be quite troublesome if we talk too much, wouldn't it?" Everyone in the room overheard the conversation between Seiya and SYNOPSIS. Ruby, one of the onlookers, was curious about who Seiya was introducing SYNOPSIS to, but then she saw him slowly approach her. No way, that friend Seiya is talking about can't be me." Just as Ruby was at a loss, Seiya actually walked up to her, bringing SYNOPSIS with him. It wasn't that he was treating Ruby any differently, but he had just transferred to the school, and the only person he knew in the classroom was Ruby Hoshino, whom he had just met that morning. "Hello, my name is SYNOPSIS. As you can see, I'm no different from you all. Since we're classmates, I want to get along well with you." Ruby was flattered when she heard SYNOPSIS' words and the hand she extended. Seeing the other students in the classroom all looking at her with envy, she felt pressured. She glanced at Tsuminami beside her, then quickly pulled her new friend to her side. "Hello. My name is Ruby Hoshino, and I'm also very happy to be friends with SYNOPSIS. And there's this kid named Tsuminami, and her favorite actor is Seiya, so she said she wants to be friends with Seiya too, Tsuminami." Although that's true, when did I ever tell Ruby that? Well, actually, I really admire Winter and Kun, and I love all the movies you've made. I've been a fan since I was a kid. I'm really sorry if this has caused you any trouble, but really? I didn't expect that my classmate is also my fan. Shirinu-san, are you envious? And Tsuminami-san, just call me Seiya. It's an honor to be friends with a beautiful girl like you." Before Tsuminami could finish her words, she was interrupted by Seiya beside her. When she heard what Seiya said, Tsuminami's face was also full of surprise. She herself hadn't expected that the idol she admired would be so approachable. "Didn't you say you'd introduce me to someone? And you ended up making friends yourself first?" SYNOPSIS delivered a ruthless elbow strike, striking Seiya in the kidneys. Tsuminami, who had recovered by now, blushed and quickly said, No, I like Shirinu-san too. You're all my idols." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.